Hey guys, Kickassreaction here, the boy, the flaming Danganronpa enthusiast, the flaming shark here. And today,
I'm here on a Danganronpa video. How about that?
he just cannot stop infecting my channel.
Let's go.
Today, we are here to do a blind reading, which is something new I've never done on the channel before. Obviously, the VNs are the closest thing to this, but today we are here to read an actual novel, which is part of the official Danganronpa timeline, which is Danganronpa 0. So,
Yes.
right off the bat, just in terms of this video structure, I recommend, anyone who's actually interested in viewing this, just use this as background noise, because there's no real visuals on these videos. It's quite literally just us reading and, like an audiobook style of video right here. So just keep this as like, some kind of background thing where you do more important activities. But this is a part of the official Danganronpa timeline.
A podcast.
Yes, kinda. This is part of the official Danganronpa timeline, and while the general consensus on, when this should be read is about non-existent, I'm doing this prior to Danganronpa 2, and then when this is done,
that's probably what most people would agree on.
I'll be jumping right into Danganronpa 2 without a break.
Yes.
So, obviously, in terms of theory talk, I spoke a little about this with the boy before this, but in terms of general theory, with a name like Zero, obviously I believe this is going to be a
Prequel?
Yes, prequel. I forgot the word there. This is going to be a prequel to Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc. It's just generally kind of, I think, the most universally used term for a prequel in these kind of shows would be Zero. What I think this would be is, I think the thing was kind of glitching out there. I think this is going to be a bit of an understanding and showcase of how this whole fucking universe works. We're probably going to see Junko. We're probably going to see Mukuro in this, which are our two main characters from Danganronpa 1. But I feel like we're going to see them sporadically.
To see both of them.
I don't think this is going to focus much on the class itself of 78, mostly because, the class itself is widely unimportant to the grand narrative of Danganronpa, save for our survivors. Turn that off.
Do you think they might exist in more of a kind of cameo perspective, if at all?
Maybe. I feel like we're probably... This is... My kind of theory is we're going to get the process as to how the ultimate tragic disaster bullshit, whatever they called it, actually
We'll just call it the tragedy.
started. Yes, how the tragedy initially started in the series. Because we get all this kind of, we get all these kind of, hints thrown at us from Junko at the very end of the 6th chapter during the trial. We know that, apparently, the world outside of us is in fucking discourse. It's in despair, Apparently, Junko and the ultimate despair kind of cult took over monumental statues of the world. They took over, the Eiffel Tower, they took over the Statue of Liberty, and they took over... What was the third one?
The Pyramids of Giza.
Yes, they took over the Pyramids of Giza. So according to Junko, outside of Hope's Peak, the world is fucked, and we learned that the very reason why we're in the school to begin with...
literally described it as the world has ended. Now, she might be exaggerating there, but that is literally her words. That's a quote from Chapter 6 of the first game.
Yes, and we learned that a big reason why we're in the school to begin with is because Hope's Peak was made to preserve some of the students and some of the best that Japan had to offer. And for whatever reason, not necessarily if it's as bad as Junko has claimed, but the students themselves were the ones responsible for bolting Hope's Peak Academy down, for completely dislodging the outside world and whatnot. So at the very least, something has happened to Earth. I don't know if it just means Japan, if Junko was pranking us, but something has happened to Japan.
Yeah,
and I feel like
based on
we're going to
everything
get...
we saw, it does seem that at least some of that was real, if not all of it.
Yeah, I get the feeling that we're going to see how Junko and Mukuro put this together. I don't assume they're going to be necessarily the star cast of the story, but I do suspect we're going to see how they, initiated this, because I do believe that Junko is the founder of this organization, and then we might get,
based on what we saw, that seems likely.
We're probably going to have a simultaneous cast where we have, different leaders around the world, different, authority figures in the group of despair. How they did this, possibly the ones that took over, the monuments in each of the different continents and whatnot. And
do you think they're going to give us like a lot of the despair potatoes in this?
Yes, I feel like that's almost entirely what this is going to be about. It's just how this actually started.
You don't think they want to save? Well, yeah, but it's kind of one of those things where it's kind of the weird thing where they are kind of, the other despairs are pretty much set up to be a lot of the potential villains of future entries, though. So that's
the stupid thing. It's the, Danganronpa 2 has to have some mystery to it. We have to actually leave some stuff, for them to actually confirm, deny in the prologue of that game. But I do suspect we have to get some meaty stuff. You're gonna
get pieces too. Yeah, there's definitely gonna be some meaty stuff in here, but it might not necessarily be the stuff you expect. But you will definitely you will come out of this with some juicy intel for sure.
I could be wrong, but that is basically my theory going in. We're gonna see how the ultimate despair tragedy, at the very least, started its foundations. We might get some stuff that went on during the 2 years of the Hope's Peak group, about how Mukuro and, Junko bonded with the class, and took in their own kind of, specialties and whatnot. As for how, Junko actually set up these games in relation to them, how she studied the members and actually put a plan together that would suit them. All that kind of fun stuff while she was making Monokuma and whatnot. And of course, probably by the end, we might even see just how she took over the school to begin with.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting. I think that's the obvious thing to go to as far as the theory. I mean, you hear the name 0, you're immediately going to assume this takes place before 1, and you can kind of put 2 and 2 together, and the most likely outcome is this is some form of story that at least tells some degree of how the tragedy came to be, and potentially confirms that the tragedy actually happened, because we still don't actually have confirmation given the way that DR1 ended.
Well, regardless, Junko did some fucking nigh impossible stuff for a kid of her age to do, so that is kind of the main credibility of what she's saying, is that everything she's done so far, she's never lied about.
You can't deny the Killing Game. Everything in the Killing Game, that happened. So
you can't deny the Killing Game, and you can't deny that she has some insane resources for the government and the police force to not have got them out by now.
Yeah, because she claimed that people tried to save them, and she shot them down. But literally. Whatever the case may be, obviously, if her dystopian, or not even dystopian, really post-apocalyptic future is true, then obviously there probably isn't a whole lot of government, whole lot of, militaristic and police-related forces that even exist. So that obviously could also further explain that. But it's interesting for sure. There's always so many questions with this series, but the series loves to tease. So it'll be interesting to see what we get and what we don't get in this. But I think as far as general overall predictions, I think your mind is in the right place, because it's kind of the obvious thing to think of for this.
Yeah.
And, I don't know if we're probably about to get started, but I'll bring up real quick that part of the reason, in fact, most of the reason I'm here is because this is legitimately a novel. It's actually a fucking book that's fairly long. It's not, insanely long, but it's, it's fairly long. So, it's all reading. As if Danganronpa wasn't mostly reading in the first place, this is literally all reading. So the way we're going to approach this is I'm going to kind of take the bulk of the reading, And then, Kick-Ass is going to kind of just go for it and talk about stuff he wants to talk about whenever he does. And he's going to do some voices as well. But I'm kind of going to be the majority of the actual audiobook here. And he's going to kind of almost primarily react to this. We're going to try and save his voice and not get him too burned out. So he's still super hyped to do DR2 right after this. Because I do think that 1-2 punch is going to be great, and then I'll bid you adieu, and he'll take over the full reins when it's time for Danganronpa 2, which I'm as excited about as I'm sure any of the 20 people listening are.
And don't forget, if you end up missing Shark too much, he does have his own playthrough of Danganronpa 2 that he went in without any knowledge of Zero. So different.
So which is another reason why I think this is interesting, because you guys could see someone. If you check, you're watching Kick-Ass right now, you could see his experience of 0, then 2, and you check me out, I did 2, then 0, so you have different experiences, which is fun. But obviously at the time that we're recording this, I'm currently reacting to Danganronpa 3, so I'm through a lot of the Danganronpa series. I still do have a fair bit left, but I'm through quite a bit of it. Yeah. Regardless, that's the general idea. So if you're ready to go, I will
ready whenever
reveal the cover.
I have seen the cover before, I believe.
Oh, yeah, you probably have. But, boom. There is the cover. It is literally sideways. So I will say, because I actually own the 2 physical volumes in Japanese, because I'm a weeb. And, literally the 2 volumes, this is basically the cover of the 2 volumes put next to each other, and like the connecting point
that makes
is
sense.
The guy holding the girl's wrist. It's actually really cool how they piece together, but this is the cover actually for both volumes. I believe the first volume cover is the girl and the second volume cover is the guy.
So we have a discount Kurisu up here.
Definitely does have the Kurisu vibes with the hair and somebody trying to grab their hand.
Yeah, and a guy. So right off the bat, nothing familiar to us. No indication of Junko.
Two
no
new
indication of
characters by
Mukuro.
all counts.
Nothing really.
The only thing connected to them in this cover is, of course, what's behind these
Monokuma.
2 unfamiliar characters. Yes.
Which is very interesting, how their hands are pretty much pressed right at the center stage of Monokuma's shift. Yeah,
right. Yeah, right in the middle. Yeah, that's
so,
good.
Not quite sure what to really infer from this. They could be parents. They could be parents to either Junko or Mukuro, as we know they do share, or they don't have the same last name, surprisingly. So it could be one of the parents, or
that would be crazy if this is like somehow we get the story of the backstory goes that far back,
that would be pretty crazy.
Came, and we
how the
get
parents
the whole
of
thing,
Monokuma.
That would be wild. I don't hate that, because when you think about it, I guess it's not. We know.
It's weird because Monokuma
from a color
is
palette
very
perspective. It kind of works.
Is very specifically like Junko's symbol, what she wants to represent despair. So there's gotta be some kind of backstory from her childhood or something that involves at least a bear-like figure. And
because you could argue the whole the black and white that symbolizes. What does the bear symbolize? We never really.
I kind of feel like the black and white kind of symbolizes the mask that Junko has. Is that she?
That's what I was saying. It's not hard to explain the black and white, but the bear is kind of. The bear doesn't necessarily.
I don't know if a
direct connection to anything.
I don't know if a bear has any kind of special meaning in Japan or whatever, or if it's just kind of.
Everything does in Japan.
If it's just some kind of
there's probably
war thing for Danganronpa specifically.
And it might be, it's one of those weird things. This is where Danganronpa is so meta, and this is where it's so hard, because almost everything has a deeper meaning, but there's also a ton of things that are just, because! Haha! You're stupid! You think this has deeper meaning? Haha! We're trolling.
Would the answer even
it's
satisfy you at this point?
Yeah, they're trolls! Like, that's what makes this series infuriating in the best way possible. They have every answer. Whether they give it to you or not. Maybe try the next game. Maybe we'll give it to you then. Maybe.
Or the next one. Or the next
or the
one.
next one. Yeah, it's literally that shit.
Only at £30 a piece.
It's so good, too, because it works. We're about to read a fucking book.
Why could I actually see Monokuma saying that in canon just as a full break?
That's the thing! Like, it's so stupid.
So yeah, obviously not too much to say on this because we literally have no reference for who these two are.
We actually said a lot on it anyways. Oh, this is great. This is just like mine. This might actually somehow be worse than mine, and I'm not even the ringmaster on this, so that's great. So yeah, I assume we're good to move on from the cover.
Yes, we are.
Yep. So we have a little bit of table of contents. The only thing I'll mention, Kazutaka Kodaka is the creator of Danganronpa. This is written by the guy. So, you know, that's how you know it's extra official. Not familiar with the illustrator, but I'm assuming that they're a prominent character designer for this series because the characters look like Danganronpa characters.
I do like the Danganronpa art style, to be fair.
Yes. I mean, you could already tell from the cover that they look like Danganronpa characters.
Legit.
Yeah, so we have a table of contents, all the chapters. So there's 16 chapters in Volume 1, and 17 in Volume 2. This is just nonsense. You don't need to know about this. This is basically just the subber just doing, like, stuff and explaining, like... that there's spoilers for the first game, all that crap. But this is the actual... Basically, they're just explaining, hey, we changed super high school level to ultimate and other little changes. They basically made it more like the English version of the games, blah, blah, blah.
Props for keeping the gunshot in the corner.
The best version of Danganronpa 0 to read. And if you guys want to pick it up, I have it in the description of my Danganronpa 0 videos if you want to read this yourself. It might be, yeah, I have a link to it. I'm pretty sure. Unless I forgot. It should be in those descriptions.
Then that was embarrassing.
But anyways, well, hey, you know, I could always fix that before this goes up if I don't. So either way, this is the Volume 1 cover. As I was explaining before, you could see specifically the Volume 1 cover. Here. So if there's anything else you notice or want to mention, you can. Otherwise, we can continue on.
The girl's... it's hard to make out, but I think she's wearing a Hope's Peak uniform.
I believe it is supposed to be.
It's very obviously a uniform, but I can't quite make out the logo.
I believe that's supposed to be the Hope's Peak logo.
Okay, so Hope's Peak has either been around for a really long fucking time, or yeah.
Or they're not the parents.
Yeah, or they're not the parents.
Also, if you notice the
this is
socks,
another class.
If you notice her socks, that looks like one of the like Hope's Peak logos as well. The where it's like the staff or the pen or whatever, and then on the other side it's the thing that kind of looks like the eye of Monokuma.
Yeah, you're right.
So yeah, it's almost definitely like 99% Hope's Peak uniform, which probably means that the guy also was wearing some sort of like
more than likely, yeah,
male like uniform. So again, yeah, it's probably a Hope's Peak.
We've never actually,
because of course it is.
That's the thing. We've never even seen the Hope's Peak uniform because everyone's wearing like their own stuff in Trigger Happy Havoc.
All right, let's continue. If you're good to go,
I assume we're just going to see the next cover art.
No, I don't think so. I think this is actually where it starts. I believe the next page will be the actual first page of the book.
Oh, fair enough.
So I think we're actually, like, for real this time. Finally, we're actually starting.
I'm good to go.
All right, let's hit it. Yep, and I will start reading.
Hey, that first name. Let's go.
Volume 1, Chapter 1.
Junko
Enoshima. Yes,
So
sir.
I guess you'll be wanting
go
to
ahead.
play Junko?
So yes, I said that I will probably play 3 characters. I can now confirm it's the 2 characters on the cover and Junko.
Interesting. Okay.
So I will play the cover characters and I'll play Junko, which will be a lot, and everything else I'll leave to you. But I will also be reading the description stuff, which is obviously most of the
So
book.
if Mukuro's in this, I'll have to make a whole new voice because I've only voiced her as Junko before.
I think, yes, if Mukuro's in this, I feel like that is an honor I will bestow upon you if Mukuro's in this, because...
It's an honor to voice a character that was barely around, huh?
Hey, maybe if we get her, though, maybe we'll learn more about her. Who knows? That would be cool.
Dude, this is Danganronpa. I wouldn't be surprised if they eventually say in a game that wasn't Mukuro, but a Mukuro decoy. Playing a Junko decoy.
Dude! Danganronpa 2's villain's gonna be Mukuro!
Yes! Woo!
I can't wait till it's literally Mukuro cosplaying as Junko, and then we have to reveal that she's actually Mukuro, not Junko.
You thought it was Mukuro cosplaying as Junko, but it was actually Junko cosplaying as Mukuro cosplaying as Junko.
No, yeah, it's like a loop. It's a never-ending loop. Oh my god! And then we learned that there was never, like, one of them never even existed.
And then both of them was just Hifumi.
Oh, fuck. Yes. I mean, to be fair, Hifumi, those 2 girls combined aren't even close to Hifumi's mass. Anyways, Junko Enoshima despaired. Anything and everything ended up just the way she wanted. Everything turned out just as she had hoped. And so, she despaired. Huh. Is it really that easy? Magma-like heat boiled up from the pit of her stomach, gradually swelled inside her body, and exploded as it reached her chest. It spread from her heart and flowed through every muscle in her body. The sound of splashing water came from the muddy pool she stood in as droplets danced through the air. Upon closer examination, one could notice the water was red. As soon as her body stopped moving, the red droplets of water came raining down, making grotesque patterns on her clothes and skin. Her clothing dyed red with blood. Her hair dyed red with blood. Her face dyed red with blood.
Ooh, so
nevertheless,
very well might be Junko's first kill.
Potentially. Oh, the beginnings of Junko's despair.
And it was actually as Junko that she did it.
Yeah, because I like that interpretation of what this might be because of the line, huh, is it really that easy? Because as
taking a life
wild
really
as it is,
so simple.
It depending on who you are, it's one of the hardest or easiest things you'll ever do.
Pretty much, yeah.
Nevertheless, none of this caught her attention. Instead, she started stomping her foot impatiently. It was a magnificent stomp. She put every bit of strength, body, and soul she had into it, her entire existence. And then, after stomping for a while, Junko Enoshima let out an annoyed yell as fierce as the roar of a demonic, rampaging beast. It's not enough! Her scream echoed through her surroundings, the noise exploding out as if it were a rock shattering into pieces. But she wasn't done. She continued to scream, "More! More! I need even better! Despair-inducing despair!"
So despair is pretty much just a dopamine drug for her.
It's just a buzzword for
that's the kind
aroused.
because that's the kind of interpretation you kind of
I'm
get
joking,
from the first game, is that, like, yeah, Junko obviously has some kind of mental disorder. I'm not exactly sure what it is. But for whatever reason...
I think trying to define it in and of itself is like
Yeah.
a nightmare.
She has some weird sus to where she just gets so, like, just apathetic against, like, everything she ever does. But the one thing that makes her feel something, which makes her feel bad, is despair. But by proxy to that, because it makes her feel anything, it makes her feel good. So it's a weird addiction case to where, you know, like, someone's
That's
aware
like
of an addiction they have. They know they know it's bad for you, but it makes them feel good, and it also makes them feel bad. Junko is the exact opposite in that, in that she sees the addiction as good, because it's the only thing she ever feels, even if it makes her feel bad.
There's like so many things, and I'm still probably oversimplifying it, but it's like she has like elements of so many different types.
I don't want to say it's depression because it's
there's
more
an element of that, but like that's the thing, right? Like there's elements of depression, there's elements of OCD. She probably has hormonal imbalance, which probably leads to some of the like you said, like a dopamine release of some kind that comes with certain negative actions that she takes. There's so many things layered on this character, and I think it's kind of the more you think about her, the more complicated she gets.
Yeah, like I don't just want to say she was just sprayed out a sociopath for most of her life. Something happened to her that made her. Yeah, but like the first catalyst
she probably was, but there's like levels to it, right?
Something like
there's like. Yeah.
Something happened that, like, fucked with her, made her sad, and then it's like, it was her first dose of, like, wait, this is emotion? This is feeling? I'm feeling something?
She finally felt something.
And because of that, it made her feel good.
Yeah, and that pain that she felt, that she finally felt, she wanted, because it felt at all, she could only interpret it as a form of a quote-unquote good feeling, and because of that, that's why she so desperately wants to share that with everyone. That's like the weird thing, right? It's like an expression of friendship or love in a sense, because
and a lot different than how Jill would do it
with everyone. Yeah, it's like it weirdly, it's almost more genuine, as weird as that is to say. It's very strange. It's like so, but like that's the thing. That's what part of what makes her so interesting. And I'm gonna try not to rant about how great she is. She's already in.
She sees as living in despair as the ultimate way of living.
Yes,
because she sees it as the truest form of living.
Yep, the only life worth living.
Yeah, like you're not clouded by, you know, hopeless like enthusiasm. You're not clouded by dreams that may never come to fruition. You're always just, in a way, you're most connected to reality when you're in despair to her.
Yep.
And that's why she feels like everyone should be like this, because then no one's ever upset or disappointed. They always just know the full picture.
I'm so proud of you. We're only one page in, and we're already
and we don't even really know what's happening.
We're already deep diving into Junko's psychology. One page in. Let's go.
This is going to be a long reading.
Oh yeah. All right, next page. But yeah.
So basically,
she needs even better just. Oh.
I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking.
I had a feeling, but you never know. She continued stamping her foot intently. Despair-inducing despair. That was what she was after. She wanted not only for the world to despair, but for herself to be taken by despair as well. More of more despair-inducing She stopped mid-thought. Something clicked inside her head, and she stopped moving. Her face froze in a surprised expression, and she stood petrified, as if every muscle in her crimson-painted body stopped working.
Oh, so I'm curious if she just got bored of it. If she just got bored of like despairing over not enough despair, And
I mean, that does line up with what we've seen of her character up to this point.
This might be the very first time she got bored of despair. And then that's when the full that's when the full addiction hits. She realized she needs more despair than what she's been subjecting herself to.
I love how we're comparing this idea to a drug addict.
Because it really is like a drug addict.
Yep.
She literally needs it to feel anything. She's dependent on it.
The idea of being addicted to a concept like this is just it's so weird but interesting. Anyways, boom.
Yo!
Yeah, we got our first picture, and it's hot. Yep.
Jesus Christ, that hair is long.
Yeah, I know. And also, basically confirming that that's the outfit, because she is actually wearing, it looks like her Hope's Peak uniform here.
So what we have here, so she has the bow, which Mukuro had in her design, but she also has the despair aspect of Monokuma, but it's a rabbit.
And she has the white one, I think, on the other side. You just can't really see it. You can only.
This is
I'm not sure.
This is what Junko had. Mukuro had. She had the bow, and I think she had the white iteration of the bunny. Yeah. So possibly Monokuma hasn't surfaced yet. Like, she hasn't made her concept of despair just yet.
Yeah, potentially. What's interesting here, though, is this seems to confirm that whatever we just witnessed did happen within the lifespan of Junko's Hope's Peak Academy existence, I guess, is the way to put it. Based on the outfit. So that's interesting.
So this is possibly within the 2 years of the class being founded.
Yeah, so potentially not like original backstory into her character.
But a lot of this hints to I mean, this obviously hints to the plan not being made yet, because like she has a full black tie, which in the photos was black and white, hinting at Monokuma. She has one black bunny ear, which again was a bear. Prior to
at the very least, the Monokuma element of the plan.
Yeah,
like who knows how it was staged out, but
so
she definitely the despair thing is definitely happening, but the Monokuma thing seems absent here.
Yeah, so she doesn't have a symbol of despair just yet.
Yeah. Also, it's nice to just appreciate this picture.
That's so funny how
Woo,
supposedly she was even killing during that 2-year time and was not ever like found out at all.
Potentially, yeah, it does seem that way. Also, that's a lot of blood.
That hair is long. They're like tentacles.
Which is fitting for her too. You want to anything else on this picture, or shall I move on?
I think that's fine. You know, pink blood, haha. Same boots.
So yeah, I actually
surprisingly the eyes look a little blue. And I hate how inconsistent the eye color is.
Yeah, Danganronpa eye color is a meme. I will say, so I actually mentioned this off camera, but I will mention it now that, yeah, there's very few pictures in this, but you will often get a picture of when a new character is introduced, you will usually get a picture of them. This actually kind of includes characters you already know. So basically, when a character is introduced into Danganronpa 0, this is Junko's. Hey, that's Junko.
I really hope Mukuro's just standing off to the side thinking, what the hell is she even doing?
That would be funny.
Just there with like the most monotone look ever. Just like, bro.
Yep. That would be great.
They're dead.
Ready to
Let's go.
Proceed?
I want a sandwich. Yes.
Then she let out a weak whisper. Oh, I see. A series of gears and switches began moving deep inside her skull, sparking pitch-black thoughts. A series of faces floated up inside her mind. They were faces she knew, of course. The faces of her classmates at Hope's Peak Academy. A tremble shook through her body, and her lips curved into a smile. She smashed her foot to the earth once again as she cackled and shook. Woohoo!
So very possibly she just got the idea of putting everyone else in her class through despair.
Her frenzied stomping became like a dance. Joy and excitement radiated through her as she moved, and she found that she just couldn't stop herself. Oh, it's so wonderful! So incredibly wonderful! And as the faces of the people destined to bring her so much wonderful despair kept floating inside her mind, her heart overflowed with a strange feeling that almost felt like love, and she danced to the rhythm of despair. Oh, it's going to be so magnificent, this despair. Laughing ecstatically. Ultimate despair, Junko and Oshima continued dancing. She danced as if she were losing her mind. This was the beginning of a story that ends in despair.
So
yeah, that was the very short chapter 1.
This has to be her coming up with the idea of the whole game. Of trapping the kids in the school, of playing the killing game, everything.
It's definitely going to involve at least some degree of tragedy-related backstory.
I mean, she just said that her classmates went into her mind, so I'm almost certain here she just clicked on, like, this game would be so fun if she put them all through despair as well.
Very short first chapter, but what'd you think of that first chapter featuring the goddess herself?
That was good. We have some confirmation on the timeline right now, whether we stay in this period or not. So I was a little bit wrong. I was a little too far in the past in my theory of this being before even the class was formed. And we already have a Junko that's already dripping wet for despair, which is interesting. The class is already established, so we very well, very soon, actually see some of our familiar faces in this class, and you know, you guys already know what I was really wanting at the end of Hope's Peak, just to get some context, any whatsoever, about how this class's dynamics were formed and these groups were made, you know, when they knew each other for so long. We don't know exactly yet how long the class has been formed, but I mean, we have some indication that we're probably, hopefully, gonna get, at the very least, some context on what everyone thought of Junko specifically before the memory wipe, however that happened.
Interesting.
And we already see that Junko's doing her killing. Whether that was even a person or an animal, since we know she did kill a chicken in the first game.
Who knows? But all we know is Junko is plotting what appears to be at least some elements of the tragedy, and that's fun. Not really a whole lot else to say. I mean, that was amazing because it was Junko, and everything with Junko is amazing. But it is also fun because, again, narration. So that was actually something from Junko's perspective, relatively short, but we actually got a little bit, I mean, just from narration, we kind of got a little bit of context into her. Just a tiny bit, but even every little bit is very appreciated as the #1 Junko simp.
I'm already sad I can't watch your viewing of this.
Yeah, you'll get there one day. Oh man, it is. I will say, I mean, it's just like how this already is. There's a lot of just nonsense in it, but there's definitely. I was excited when I found out that the first words were, you know, Junko and Oshima or whatever
Hell
it was.
Yeah.
That's a good start in my book. All right, so very short chapters. So chapter 2. That, like I said, technically that was chapter 1. I would kind of consider that more the prologue, but either way, this is chapter 2. You ready for chapter 2?
Oh, yeah.
And we're starting it just like DR1. Hope's Peak Academy, an exclusive government-sanctioned school accepting only students with exceptional abilities. Its stated goal is to raise the future hope of the nation, and for that reason, it became known as the Academy of Hope. It's a source of envy, as it's common knowledge that one can achieve great success in life just by being a Hope's Peak graduate, as most of its alumni are now employed in high positions in every field of the professional world. That statement is not an exaggeration. There are 2 requirements to becoming a Hope's Peak student. First, one must be currently enrolled in a high school. Second, they must be the very best in their field of expertise.
So I do
Hope's
want to
Peak-
say,
Oh, yep, go for it.
if we are going into some of the sus here, I just want to say, like, I never really, like, mentioned it before. I never really thought about it too much.
Yeah, go for it.
But I am curious if we're going to get any kind of indication on what the previous lucky students have got into in their lives.
Interesting.
Because it's the most broad term
I really
of the
like
entire,
that comment.
of the entire
I really
thing.
like
and it's,
where your head's thinking.
it's literally just like, yeah, like,
But, like,
we just have one
especially because-
random fucking nobody
Yeah.
with no known
But it's-
talent. And we
Yep,
just
yep.
give them the opportunity. So what the hell kind of field would they even
Yeah.
be in?
Yeah, I love the mindset there, because when you think about it, it's like, yeah, like, it's very, like, we don't even know how, like, yeah, is it like, yeah, what, one a grade, one a, like, I don't know
I think
if it
it's
was ever
just
specified.
one per year.
Yeah, so that would probably be one a grade then.
And I'd also
So
like
there'd be-
to like to point out that if Hope's Peak is determined to like train and educate like the nation's best,
Yeah.
how does a gambler benefit society?
It again, well, I mean, there's a lot of things. Like, there obviously, we saw, I mean, obviously Celeste has a lot of skills that spawn from her talent. Like, it goes beyond just her ability. You know, she was good at
she's not
manipulating
even
people. She was good at
she's not even
know.
of legal age to gamble in her home country.
that. In and of itself is impressive enough for Hope's Peak to want her. Like, that's the thing. Hope's Peak doesn't really, I don't, like, nothing we've seen about Hope's Peak really shows that they seem to care that much about morality.
It's so
more
ambiguous
pure
what some
talent.
of these ultimates even mean.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And that's,
Like,
I think,
some of
also
them
part of
just
the,
aren't
the
even
game
talents,
saying
really.
they're ridiculous, yeah. But, yeah, all very good points. I love what you said about the lucky student thing, and I'd love to.
I mean,
I'd love to meet another one. That would be fantastic.
It's just so
Maybe something
ambiguous
we'll
what
get
that
at some
even
point.
is.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So they have to be enrolled in high school, and they must be the best in their field. Hope's Peak doesn't hold any standard entrance exams, as the Academy insists that the things tested by these kinds of exams are meaningless for its purposes. Instead, students are scouted for by the Academy staff. This is pretty much all stuff that was explained at the very beginning of DR1 when Makoto was just talking about shit.
Oh, I just thought,
Yeah.
if Hope's Peak is, like, meant to represent the hope of the future, then it'd be pretty cool if we get the time skip and Makoto's the new headmaster.
Yeah, maybe like at the end.
Like they
things have been-
refurbished Hope's
yeah.
Peak to be
at
like
the very end.
like the main kind of the kind of
That would
main
make
like
sense.
base of operation for Hope in Japan.
Yeah.
And Makoto's like the leader to it, with like Kyoko as the
Yeah.
assistant, like Tagami as like the governor and advisor, Jill as like fucking Jill.
Yeah, but whatever.
that
I
kind of
agree
stuff.
with your general. Like, though that does sound like a very like fitting thing that could be like at the end of the series kind of thing. I could definitely see that. Anyways, Hope's Peak. Yeah, they don't serve. Students are scouted for by the Academy staff, who serve as both educators and researchers of extraordinary human ability. Some say Hope's Peak Academy's faculty members are much like foster parents of talent who have made it their life's mission to find and nurture talent in their children. But right now, every member of that extraordinary faculty, as well as the Academy itself, was facing an unprecedented, unparalleled crisis.
Ooh.
Hope's Peak Academy's faculty building is located in the school's East District, and is the only building on campus that students are forbidden to enter. The corridors of that building, usually bustling with teachers and staff, were now empty and engulfed in an unnatural silence. The laboratories, the private rooms, and the luxurious personal offices had all been abandoned. Every man and woman who usually occupied these locations was currently gathered in a single place. Meeting room 13.
The timeline is a little confusing right now on where we even are.
We just don't know yet.
Yeah, we imply Junko's not too far into this just yet, but it seems like the school is already
potentially
sussing.
I think you're jumping the gun. We'll see what this is about. But yeah, because this could be a little more like pre-tragedy kind of related stuff, or it could actually be, more like it's brewing more. But the other thing too that's worth noting is it's very possible that Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 are not taking place at the same period of time. It's very possible that Chapter 1 was just kind of showing... Well, Chapter 1, again, I feel like was just an introduction to Junko and also showing like a very definitive moment here, whereas this feels like the actual beginning of the story. That's why I said Chapter 1 is more like the prologue.
Yeah.
Anyways... Hope's Peak Academy's largest meeting room is located on the top floor of the faculty building and has a maximum capacity of over 300.
Jesus.
Nevertheless, with every single faculty member attending, it was fully packed. Not a single empty seat remained among the long tables lining the room. For such a huge crowd, however, the room was strangely quiet. Only a single person's voice could be heard.
Am I tripping?
The voice of Hope.
Did we even see this room in the game?
No. We did not. The voice of Hope's Peak Academy's headmaster, Jin Kirigiri.
Hey.
Let's go!
Bro's finally gonna get some dialogue.
Let's go. He faced the assembled faculty members from his position at the foremost table and read from a printout he held in his hand. Without even a glimpse of emotion, he spoke in an unaffected tone of voice. The words printed on the paper came out of his mouth as if he were nothing more than an automaton reading a script. As far as Kirigiri was concerned, that was his most important duty. He was to communicate the decision to all of the faculty members, no matter how little sense it seemed to make. He had no time for doubts or hesitations. If he had time for that, he would have been attending to a number of other things. Random voice.
Are you telling us to cover it up? Wait.
Voice suddenly...
Wait a minute.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Cook! Let him cook!
This is crack. Did he...
Oh, we're already crack theorying this shit. Oh, God.
Did Jin know about Junko and let her in anyway?
Well, it's interesting because
did he
Chapter 6, they talk about how he was like getting somewhere with the ultimate despair. Like he had kind of figured out that something was going on, and I think if I'm remembering correctly, he felt that there was some dark cloud surrounding Mukuro, if I'm remembering correctly, but he never pieced it together. Because remember, we had, like, Mukuro's profile, and there was all this stuff going on. There's a moment where we get, like, an extra piece of information, and it kind of implied that the headmaster was kind of narrowing in on this, like, what we know as the ultimate despair. But he never... Clearly, he didn't... Obviously, he didn't
That's what I was kind of thinking, like... Did he click it
Unless
was Junko?
Unless he lied completely.
Yeah, did he click it was Junko and he like just let her in anyway to try and reform her? And then it just blew up completely on his face.
So based on this line though, what's interesting here is it seems like it's something that all the faculty know about.
Yeah, and he's trying to cover it up.
And it's even implied that these orders go above him based on the way like how it was described in this first paragraph of this page. And that, yeah, this is just the orders is to cover it up. So this already is getting into really interesting stuff that whatever's going on here likely has connections to the tragedy, but we just don't know. This is kind of like all new information that we're getting here, whatever this is.
Yeah.
So interesting. Oh, the crack's already begun. Let's go. A voice suddenly echoed through the meeting room. Kirigiri raised his head and saw 300 people staring at him intently, waiting for a response. It wasn't a piercing stare, nor one of judgment. It was far more uncomfortable than that. 300 people stared at him in discomfort, as if they were one entity, and from this, Kirigiri felt every hair on his body stand on end. He turned his head to the 4 people seated to his right, trying to escape the gaze. They were stationed at the same frontmost table that he was. Their faces creaked with wrinkles. Their eyes were closed, making those wrinkly faces even wrinklier. From Kirigiri's position, it almost looked like the 4 faces before him were one huge giant wrinkle. The expressions of the 4 members of Hope's Peak Academy's steering committee seemed to say they had already given up. An unintentional, bitter smile appeared on Kirigiri's face.
So that's how it's going to be? Oh well, it's not as if I expected anything else.
Kind of leaving him out to dry, it seems like. So again, I have actually never heard of the term steering committee, but based on how it's described in this, it's kind of like a board of directors or something. So again, not directly Jin's bosses necessarily, but certainly people that have very high influence in Hope's Peak Academy.
Yeah.
With those feelings festering inside his heart, Kirigiri turned back toward the crowd's stare and set the paper aside. From this point onward, he was going to use his own words.
Let me make this perfectly clear. We reached this decision after putting a lot of thought into the matter at the steering meeting that took place earlier today.
He felt the temperature in the room grow tepid, perhaps from every faculty member's body having grown stiff in attention. Kinky. Kirigiri sipped from the glass of water in his hand and continued.
We continued, of course, how extremely irregular this decision is.
The wrinkled faces that were as much a part of the we he had mentioned as himself did not move an inch. It was if they knew from the very beginning that he was going to take the situation into his own hands.
But make no mistake, we are not covering this tragedy up to escape responsibility.
Interesting.
If I could end it all here at...
So obviously, this is where it's weird, right? Because, like, obviously, when he says tragedy, we're not talking about literally the tragedy, obviously, because that's...
Are we talking about what happened to the class? Like the other class?
Something...
That block was just massacred.
Possibly. That could be it. Because that's the thing, like, they linked it to, the tragedy and all that, but we know nothing about the specifics of how the tragedy started, the order of events. Like, this seems like a school-level tragedy that potentially could link itself or even compound itself into what we know as the eventual worldwide tragedy. But clearly something very bad happened at Hope's Peak Academy. And this is while they were still operating. This is clearly before, all the, like, tragedy-related stuff, like the shelter, all that stuff. So, interesting. Yeah. Something really bad has already happened, but, like, on a more micro level, on a more, like, Hope's Peak level.
That's what I'm saying.
They're apparently trying to cover up.
The bloody, just, like, the upstairs, like part of the school that was cut off.
So what? Someone killed a whole classroom of students, and they're trying to cover that shit up. That's
typical
crazy.
School
if that's what happened.
School shooter type shit.
Yeah, kind of. Except it's Japan, so
it's much worse.
Yeah, and also, God, that room was nuts. But also,
That
yeah,
whole block
like,
was nuts.
but that's the thing. It's not only Japan; it's Hope's Peak, and like this is the symbol of hope, right?
Literally,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, literally. Literally in this story, like a few pages ago, was described as such. So, yeah, interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. But yeah, continue whenever.
How was it? Don't get me wrong, right? What was I?
You just said we're not covering this tragedy up to escape responsibility.
Oh, yes, of course. If I could end it all here and now simply by taking responsibility, I would do so in a heartbeat. Unfortunately, this particular instant cannot be dealt with that easily. It wouldn't even matter if each and every one of us accepted responsibility. We're dealing with a problem that exists on an entirely different level.
Interesting. Kirigiri stopped for a moment and finished his glass of water in a single gulp, trying to remain calm.
I know that feeling. Don't get me wrong, I don't think we are completely blameless here. If we were, that parade out there wouldn't be happening right now. What the hell?
And he parade in quotes, so obviously a protest, riot, probably something
That's what you're thinking,
of that
yeah.
sort. Yeah, because parade, he's trying to spruce it up. He doesn't want to use the word that he actually means. Kirigiri gestured toward the curtain window. Several people turned to look at it, a severe expression on their faces.
The parade has been growing larger and larger lately. The people in it hate us, and I don't think they're wrong for doing so.
Kirigiri paused and moved his gaze across the room, looking at each of the faculty members' faces as if what he were about to say was personally directed to every one of them, individually.
That said, however, I refuse to believe Hope's Peak Academy's thesis that talent itself is humanity's first and foremost hope is wrong. You must realize that if information about this instant leaves the walls of this school, we are likely to lose it all. As far as I'm concerned, that would be an enormous loss for mankind. Every one of our successful graduates I've spoken to feels the same way. Successful graduates. Interesting. We might be getting some previous students up in here. Maybe some previous lucky students.
That would be great. At the mention of the Hope's Peak alumni, the crowd stirred a little.
And that is why the members of Hope's Peak Academy's steering committee and myself have come to the conclusion that this incident cannot be made public. Oh, secrets. Secrets.
Really fucked up secrets at that. Kirigiri let his gaze wander to the old men once more, but they remained still. Their expressionless silence made it seem as though none of this concerned them.
Imagine if this is all just because of whatever the hell Junko was doing at the start.
It's
like,
possible.
bro, your student fucking killed someone. Your school represents
At
hope,
least
and your
someone.
student is out there killing in their school uniform?
I'm not gonna lie, the way they're talking about this, I feel like it's more than someone. Like, if it is just murder, it's probably more than one person.
Yeah,
Like, I feel like
that's a
even
fair point.
even that is just a student murdering like a person or another student or something. I feel like even that is not dramatic enough for the way they're treating this. So like, yeah, mass murder, like what you were talking about, the classroom, like I could see it being something like that.
As I said before, I know more than anyone else how irregular this decision is. Nevertheless, we have a duty, both as educators and as researchers, to protect talent. Should human ability, such as the kind found in this institution, become the target of public hostility, it would be an absolute catastrophe. Nevertheless, there is one more thing I want you all to remember.
Also, I love how already, though, there's definitely implications already that Hope's Peak likely kind of shot itself in the foot and likely took an awful situation and helped make it worse based on what we're seeing so far.
Avoiding
Because
accountability.
I'm sure their decision to not reveal this blows up in their face catastrophically.
I mean, when doesn't it?
Based on what we know of the future. The 300 faculty members waited in attention for Kirigiri's next words.
The crimes committed may be terrible, but it doesn't change the fact that this student carries a very special brand of hope that we raised ourselves. So it is a student. A student is at the center of this.
That's a big confirmation. And they describe them as having a very special brand of hope that we raised ourselves.
See, I would say Mukuro because of the soldier aspect, but they raised themselves is a little interesting there.
Yeah, that... It's like, how literal do we take that? Because they made the foster parent comment earlier, but that's still a weird way to frame it.
Because Mukuro could absolutely massacre however many she wanted.
Sure.
She could have done that whole facility up in the school by herself.
To be fair, she's not the only person at this school that could do that. I mean, we already know, not that she would, but we already know that,
Sakura would have as well.
Yeah, we've already met at least 2 people who could do that easily.
I mean, that's probably... I want to say that's the only 2. Mondo's cool, but I wouldn't say he's, that
Probably
level.
not Mondo. We know so little about Junko, and, we know that, she's Mukuro's sister. It's hard to know how, crazy she might be in other realms.
But we know how creative she is, so...
Yeah, so maybe Junko as well.
Yeah. I wouldn't say anyone else, though, in the...
Well,
I guess Jill.
Jill.
But that's not Jill's style.
Yeah,
that's not Jill's style.
But if they're all cute boys, maybe.
No.
She needs a lot of scissors to suspend them all.
Never leave home with Adam.
They just come out of all her holes. The look in the faculty's eyes changed in an instant. No one so much as uttered a word. Everyone sat in complete silence. No one objected. No one could object. His words were narrow-minded, but they reflected the opinions of everyone in the room. They were all acting both as educators and as scientists, researching human talent. Just like any other scientists becoming obsessed with their area of research, the staff of Hope's Peak Academy were obsessed with talent. Anyone who did not share that obsession did not belong at Hope's Peak.
Yeah, and this almost feels like it's going into the theory I kind of had at the start of the game, where it's how far is this talent? Is it a magic system where it's genuinely supernatural? Is it just the kind of peak a human can reach? Yeah, because again, there's certain people there that just have almost supernatural level of talent, like Celeste and her gambling.
Yeah,
thing.
they're they straddle the border in this series a lot in that regard,
and it's
and that's just also them trolling.
Yeah, it does almost feel like it's some kind of supernatural ability that even most of humanity's not aware of, but Hope's Peak seems to actually kind of acknowledge it as some kind of supernatural ability.
Their whole thing is about researching talent, and they're really emphasizing that as much as they are teachers and scouts and all that stuff, they are quite literally researchers.
So I guess maybe even if that's the case, the purpose of the ultimate lucky student then might be to find talent in someone that supposedly has none. If
potentially. Could
kind
also
of
be
think of it like the mutant gene in X-Men, where it's it's dormant. Sure. It's dormant, but it can be kind of brought out if you do enough sus to it.
I think another thing that you could also potentially, use for this is it could be the controlled, test subject, right? It's kind of, comparing all these talents to other talents might be a little more, you might want to have someone to compare to in certain areas in certain ways that you don't define as someone that quote unquote doesn't have that talent, right? So it is the controlled variable, so to speak.
Or if it can be,
if we talk as
if it can be changed, because Junko and Mukuro have 2 talents necessarily, and Leon wanted to change his from baseball to musician.
Well, you also talked about the whole thing of we literally just talked about how they referred to whoever this student is that did horrible things. They even described it as this student that they, raised up, their talent, their hope, whatever.
So
right?
Possibly
so even that kind of description is a kind of explaining that potentially
a lucky student.
They became potentially.
One that didn't have one going in, that they specifically tried to get out for their own reason.
Potentially. Interesting.
Which again, there's nothing saying that couldn't be Mukuro.
Who knows? And that is why they listened to Kirigiri's words and made their decision. For the idea they believed in, for the future they believed in, for the hope they believed in, they would do their best to conceal the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy. So we have an official name for this, and of course Danganronpa's trolling because they also call it a tragedy. But whatever this incident is officially known as the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy.
Yep, what in the hell is that supposed to mean?
We don't know. I mean, all we know is it involves a student.
And we have some idea on which student.
There's definitely a few. We know of at least 2 students that are that do pretty bad things.
We know of 2 students that we've seen do things, and we know of 2 supposed students that we haven't seen before.
Anyways, that was chapter 2. So, any other comments, or you want to keep going?
I don't... That's the thing, I gotta kind of incorporate these 2 mysterious people on the cover anyway, so I don't think this is either Junko or Mukuro.
Characters.
Like, I gotta remember, this isn't, like, full-on just Mukuro and Junko's backstory. There is some stuff
be new
here.
Characters.
There are new characters in this.
Although, so far, everyone of relevance has actually not been new, because we've gotten Junko and we've gotten Headmaster
we're just sticking
Kirigiri.
to the well-known thus far.
Although we actually got dialogue from Jin this time.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
Bro's future is not fun.
No.
But yeah, it's pretty
All right. Yeah. All right, chapter 3. A yellow cat peeked out from the thicket beside the pavement.
What the hell?
Slowly, it stepped out of the swaying grass and into the road, waving its long tail as it turned its eyes expectantly toward me. But its expression... Interesting. Okay,
we've got a POV.
Yeah, I was literally about to say the perspective changed. Does this mean main character alert? Did the main character just drop? But
Depends
its expression...
what you mean by main character.
I mean of this story, but I guess it could also be a previous main character as well. But its expression soon turned to alertness and then to fear. The cat, having seen me skipping merrily down the road toward it, must have thought I was about to trample it, and so it escaped back into the bushes in panic. But I didn't care at all. Sun shining down on me, wind fluttering my skirt. I continued my joyful skip onward and down the road.
So
I was in Hope's Peak Academy's East District, most likely.
It's a skirt.
Never know.
Oh, it's Chihiro.
Oh, you never know. This series already has told you never know. Near the courtyard, where many newly built facilities, as well as several still under construction, were lined up around me. As I made my way down the path between the buildings, my skips like stitchwork between them, I took no special notice of any dirty cats or of the classmates I passed who were studying and fraternizing all around me. Nor did I derive any happiness from the light touch of the sun after a long while indoors. No, I skipped down the road with nothing but my destination on my mind. Not that I'm the kind of girl who'd go skipping around thoughtlessly. I had a very good reason.
So it's a go.
I'm going to meet the boy that I like more than anyone in the world.
Interesting. So I'm trying to think who this POV invoice would fit of who we know. Obviously not Junko, Mukuro, or Chihiro. Not Celeste. Actually, that's the most likely. That's definitely not the one. Not Kyoko. Maybe Sayaka? It's a bit pompery for her.
A little, but it could be Sayaka going to see Makoto.
Possibly, or Leon.
Let's go! Based.
I guess, hey, it could be Hina.
I can see it.
Yeah, I think that's the most likely one at the moment. And she did have a thing for Makoto for some reason.
Yeah. And then obviously it could also just be a new character.
That too. Could be the star characters on the cover.
Yeah, it could be, because we do have a guy and a girl on the cover, so it could be the girl. That reason may or may not have been a good one, but either way, no student in their right mind would go skipping down the road of such a prestigious school's campus as Hope's Peak Academy. So it wasn't surprising that other students who happened to walk by looked at me oddly, but that really had nothing to do with me. Nothing in the world could stop my skipping. Not a crying girl, or a lover's quarrel, or a student in a wheelchair that had come to a standstill. Not even an anemic student who had fallen down. Okay, now we're getting some interesting context here.
Maybe not Hina then.
Have we possibly found a yandere? Is it possible?
What do you mean? What do you mean? This whole fucking school's filled with them.
That's fair, but, you know.
I'd name you a few off the top of my head, but, you know.
One thought alone moved my body. I want to see the one I love, and I want to see him soon. I skipped down paths and up steps, not caring in the least how much my skirt flapped as I made my way through the courtyard. Interesting. Isn't very modest.
I mean, if you're a yandere, only one person should get to see that view.
Like, that's the thing. Like, it's early, so I don't want to overstate it, but I'm kind of getting a true yandere vibe in the sense that literally, like, so far, based on everything she said, like, it's literally, like, it might be like a nothing in the world matters to me except this boy. So, like, why would she care if someone gets to see? Because, like, it has nothing to do with me.
Only your beloved gets to see.
But that's not the way that, like, I'm getting the vibes of, like, literally, it's like a disassociation from things that don't involve the boy. That's the vibes I'm getting, but definitely jumping the gun. I skipped down paths and up steps, not caring in the... Oh, yeah, I already read that. Continuing down the road, I suddenly came to a stop. Where is it that I'm going? I looked around in confusion and realized I didn't recognize any of the landmarks around me. My heart started thumping loudly. No, everything's fine. I calmed myself down and removed a notebook from the backpack I was carrying. On the last page of the notebook, the following sentence was written. You're looking for the Neuroscience Institute on the 3rd floor of the biology building in Hope's Peak Academy's East District. A cool wind of relief passed through my body. Yeah, that's right, the biology building. But where is that biology building anyway? My heart began thumping heavily once more. Everything's fine, no need to worry. I hurriedly flipped through the notebook as if acting on instinct, and my eyes stopped on a page with a crude drawing of a map. Above it, the following was written. This is a diagram of Hope's Peak Academy's East District. Well done, me! Without thinking, I struck a victory pose. I jumped onto the raised edge of the fountain that decorated the center of the courtyard, comparing the buildings around me with the ones on the map. Literature building, math building, physics building, arts, health, linguistics, faculty. As cold droplets from the fountain kept hitting my thighs. Hot? I looked desperately for my destination, the biology building, as if it were my first time visiting. I think that's it? My eyes stopped on a square building with a distinctive light green exterior, whose appearance seemed to line up with what was drawn in the notebook. Well, this just got weirder and weirder.
So, some form of short-term memory loss?
Dude.
I guess?
What the fuck, Danganronpa? Why do we have another character who can't remember things?
Because one wasn't enough.
Oh my god.
Except, yeah.
How many times are you going to do this?
See, that's the kind of funny thing, is that actually could have been Toko and Jill, with Jill running up to see the boy and Toko realizing, wait, what the hell's going on?
That would be funny.
Although, to be fair, the kind of fucking, like, attire, like, Toko wears, that no one's seeing that skirt.
Yeah, I was gonna say Toko's gotta has things to hide.
Showing all kinds of ankle.
But yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. Anyways, continue on.
Sure.
All right. I jumped down from the fountain's edge and started running. Some boys in the area looked at me in surprise. Maybe my skirt flew up for a second during my vigorous leap, but that really had nothing to do with me. In any case, even if I don't remember the place, I found my destination. My ferocious dash led me inside the biology building, where I soon discovered a flight of stairs at the back of the lobby. I didn't lose momentum for even a second as I ran all the way up to the 3rd floor. When I reached it, I ran down the corridor, checking the plates next to the doors that lined its halls. Finally, at the very end, I found the sign that read Neuroscience Institute. I hastily stopped in my tracks. After a quick, deep breath, I checked my hair and my smile in my compact mirror. Yep, cute as always. Flashing that same wonderful smile and shouting, "Good morning!" In my brightest voice, I opened the lab's door, and that's when it happened. Something flew just past my ear, slicing the air with a whoosh. Eek! I turned my head in a panic and saw a small blade embedded in the wall behind me, still vibrating from the impact. I jumped back, letting out a yelp. "Why is there a knife flying through the air?" A chiding voice answered back from inside the lab. "Don't shout." The moment I heard that voice, my heart started beating faster. As it loudly thumped in my chest, I turned toward the interior of the lab, where a boy was lounging on a bed in the center of the room. "You're late. That's unseemly for someone as ugly as you."
Okay, Byakuya, let's calm down. What in
Based
the
alert?
actual... What the hell? We've got some kind of yandere-esque girl after some guy who thinks she's ugly. Where have I heard this before?
See, this is Danganronpa's trolling, man. They're like, hey, did you like it the first time? How about the second time? What about the third time? Maybe the fourth time? This series is such a troll. A dirty white shirt was sloppily thrown over his body. Okay, that's different from Byakuya.
Yeah, it's gotta be the guy, but we'll see.
He was lying face up, his gaze focused on a thick volume of manga held above his head. He didn't so much as look at me as he spoke. You're also too loud for someone as ugly as you, and come to think of it, acting so scared of a little scalpel is weird too. Wait a second, I interrupted him hurriedly. I can report you for discrimination if you keep calling me ugly, you know. Who are you going to report me to? The National Japanese Association of Ugly People? That kind of group would be guilty of discrimination just by existing.
Oof.
Well, he's a snarky motherfucker. The boy who kept calling me ugly while keeping his face buried in his manga was the person in charge of this lab. The doctor in charge of my treatment. My childhood friend. The boy I like most in the world. Okay, there's a lot of information in that line.
Definitely not anyone, well, not Byakuya and Toko.
Yeah, see, most likely, these are the cover characters.
Yeah, that's kind of my thought process right now, but just at the cover.
What it seems like. Boom, and there's the confirmation.
Hey, let's go.
Damn, bro,
those are some feet.
I was literally about to say, bro giving out them toes for free. That's wild. So yeah, we have our
here's the girl.
Two cover characters here. We don't have names yet, but we have our cover characters.
So girl has some memory issues because of course she does. As you said, some yandere tendencies, which is pretty funny.
Very interesting, especially with amnesia involved.
It's a pretty short skirt, so I get that. And the guy is just all levels of I don't give a fuck.
We're in the neuros.
I'm trying to see what that is next to his leg. Is that meant to be like a half tie with two different colors?
It is interesting. The tie does have two different colors, and it is a little interesting that those are the colors.
It kind of looks like it has three colors, because you've got the main basis, it goes down to the red on the left, but you also see, like, at the side near the manga, it's, like, striped with black and white.
So what we're saying is he's got a Monokuma colors.
Well, Monokuma's just two. This guy's got three.
Yeah, but Monokuma's got, like, the red eye.
Yeah, he's got a red eye, to be fair.
Those are the three colors. I mean, they're also the Hope's Peak colors, to be fair, but that doesn't look like a generic Hope's Peak tie either, so it's interesting.
Yeah.
I think the other thing, there was something else. Damn it, I already lost it. But, oh, yeah, what I was going to say was, so, based on what she had said on the previous page, talking about the doctor in charge of my treatment, but also my childhood friend. So that implies that they're a similar age. So presumably both students. I mean, he could be a teacher, but presumably both students. So based on
but he's
Neuroscience
also in charge
Institute,
of her treatment?
which actually does probably make sense because he's probably the ultimate neuroscientist. And she has a brain issue, and neuroscience is the study of the brain. So that's probably what's going on here. It is interesting, though, that their childhood friends, he's a neuroscientist, and his childhood friend that he seems to at least pretend to hate, if not actually hate, has brain issues. There's a lot of different ways you can go with that. The most obvious one being that maybe he pursued his entire pursuit was to help her. If this is something that's been going on
that's
for a
some
long
next
time.
level tsundere.
Which is crazy. You say tsundere, but that's kind of like that's like a tsundere yandere.
Yeah, and we've just got our classic yandere right here.
So we might have like double yandere that are actually like, but one of them's a tsundere too. That'd be crazy.
That is.
There's other possibilities. I guess the other possibility that jumps to my mind is somehow he caused her issues. This is Danganronpa, so nothing's off the table.
You have a point there.
And who knows? Like, maybe, like, who knows, right? Like, there's a lot of sus that could be. There's a lot. This setup screams sus on so many levels. I think either this guy's as in love with her as she is with him, and that's probably why he did what he did, or
he made her in love with him.
Yeah, like, that's the thing. Like, it's like, it just screams yandere no matter how you look at it.
So let's see how yandere it'll get. And what the fuck is Junko's role in this?
Interesting. See, that's the thing, right? Because, like, we talk about, like, who are these characters, right? And this is where I'll talk a little bit into stuff. I can't say my big thing, which, to be fair, I didn't come up with my crazy theory from my reading until later. But one of the possibilities, I think, here, based on these character introductions, is it possible that these two individuals might also be Ultimate Despair?
Yeah, it's possible. He's a neuroscientist.
Based on the
it's possible he
bit
fucked their memories.
Based on the little bit that we know about what happened in DR1 and just the way these characters have been presented, I could see worlds where these characters are or become like villains. So
yeah.
I think that's like that was kind of one of the thoughts that when I was introduced to these characters, and they set up the Junko thing, and it's like,
oh, they brought Junko into the despair group.
Well, I kind of see it a little more the other way, but it's more of like these characters are the focus. So what's their role in these events? And then that just kind of led me down the thought process of like, were these two characters also big players in how this whole thing went down? And given how we introed the story with Junko and like the way, like, it's like, yeah, so that was kind of where my mind first jumped, was that I don't know if these characters are going to be necessarily heroic protagonists.
Well, I guess we're gonna have to see.
But yeah, first impressions on the guy and the girl, like general like vibes,
feet.
feelings. What do you think?
Feet.
Yeah, feet. Yeah, that's all you needed to say.
The girl's interesting, obviously.
Yep.
Definitely got some
Great
sussy
design.
memory crap going on. And the guy is just, we got a tsundere / yandere.
/ asshole. So all of those are good. So
That's what I said.
3 for 3 potentially. Yes, fair. Tsundere asshole. What's the difference? Moving on. He's the ultimate neurologist, Yasuke Matsuda, I think.
Huh?
So,
You love him and can't even remember his fucking name?
her memory. That's so interesting. She like remembers, seemingly no matter what, how much she loves him. But even his name is like fuzzy.
That's so sussy.
Oh, I see. You're a member of that association, aren't you? Is that why you're so angry? I'm not. And I'm not even ugly. On second thought, you're right. You aren't ugly. My chest swelled in pride as I flashed a winning smile. Yep, that's right. I even checked in my mirror just now, and you're super ugly. Super ugly?
Bro,
my shock
you would
was
not like
considerable.
Toko.
Bro is trolling though. Like, yeah, I don't buy it for a second. This guy's totally in love with this girl, 100%. My shock was considerable, but it didn't take me long to recover just enough to come up with a sharp response. Oh, liar! I'm not super ugly. If anything, I'm world-class cute.
Okay, calm down. No, you're not.
Damn. Matsuda continued
You are cute, but you're not world-class cute. Like, fucking calm down.
Matsuda continued to ignore the fuss I was making, his eyes never leaving his manga. I don't care what the world thinks. Ugliness is subjective, and I'm free to make my own judgment, he said, as if the matter at hand didn't concern him at all. That was the most backhanded compliment I've ever heard. He, like, so subtly said, you're conventionally attractive.
Ugliness is subjective, my man, so I get to choose what the term is, bro.
But implying that to the average person, she's not ugly. That's crazy. So tell me where you think I'm ugly. I'll get it fixed with surgery.
Jesus Christ. What a fucking yandere.
This girl's got issues. Like, very clearly, like, and I'm here for it. Is it my eyes? My nose? Maybe my mouth? How about my voice? Your heart, mostly. But I can't damn, that was savage. But I can't fix my heart in surgery. Is that so? Poor you. Honestly, you're beyond help. Both your face and your brain aren't any good. I think you could have some success if you use your ugliness for sympathy, though. Go stand in front of a train station and beg for change or something. I'm sure you'll make lots of money. Jesus
God
Christ.
damn.
If he is a tsundere, he's not pulling punches. Fuck.
Are these two siblings or something?
Hopefully they're siblings and romantically.
Sounds like how a
involved,
brother
because
would
that be
speak
the
to a
next level
sister.
of based. I don't know, maybe.
Feet.
We still don't know her name. Like, yeah, because he's Yasuke Matsuda. We still haven't gotten her name yet.
Yeah.
I dropped my shoulders, crestfallen. My hands fell to my sides and my body drooped limply. The verbal beating I'd received was just too harsh. By the way, who are you? What?
What?
I raised my head in surprise at his unexpected question. I've only heard your voice up to now, so I don't know who you are yet. What the fuck?
What is happening?
Legend? This guy's a legend. That's all I know. Are you saying you were talking to me this entire time and you didn't know who I was? To be fair, I actually really love both of these characters a lot. It's your fault. You never told me who you were. That's pretty rude. I didn't, but you recognize my face, right? See, it's me. I don't have time to look at you, said Matsuda, still absorbed in his manga. I just got to the good part. I don't have time, it's just manga.
Just manga?
And if you're going
Oh
no, here we go again. Oh no, not the pink girl. And if you're going to ask, what's more important, me or the manga? I'll still be listening to you, but as far as looking goes, I'll take the manga, same as always. I see. If the answer is the same as always, that means manga was always more important to you than me. That's cruel. I didn't want to know that. That's a fine observation, but please just answer the question. Okay. Pressured, I took the notebook out of my backpack once more and read its front cover. Ryoko Otanashi's Memory Notebook. Ryoko. Okay. As soon as I saw the words, I remembered. I remembered my own name. It seems my name is Ryoko Otanashi?
What
Maybe?
is going on?
So yeah, this includes her name. So this memory issue is really bad.
So she has some... Yeah, it's not straight up amnesia like what Kyoko had, but...
No, or like any of the, like, Hope's Peak stuff, like DR1 stuff.
It's not
definitely
Alzheimer's.
different than that. Very interesting.
Dementia? Nah.
I think this is something more specific to this, to be honest. I know only one person stupid enough to not be sure of her own name.
That's fair.
Matsuda let out a big sigh. So you weren't someone suspicious after all. Are you trying to say you threw that scalpel earlier because you mistook me for someone suspicious? Is that it? That's right. I'm not the kind of guy who throws sharp objects at acquaintances after all. Liar! I pointed my finger at Matsuda. I mean, before even checking to see who I was, you told me I was late and that I was too loud for an ugly person. That's proof you knew who I was. Thump. Matsuda loudly snapped his manga shut. Leveraging the bed's cushion to bounce onto his feet, he walked briskly toward me until there was almost no distance between us. What? What's wrong? As he stared straight into my eyes, my body flushed with heat. Did you remember that? Huh? Matsuda gripped my shoulders firmly with both hands and his face drew close to mine. Do you remember me calling you ugly when you got here? He asked in a slow, firm tone. Having Matsuda pressed so close to me with such a serious expression on his face made my heartbeat increase tenfold. I think so? I guess my condition's a little better today. Interesting. So he doesn't even expect her to remember, like, the beginning of their conversation.
This is just... I don't know what to say.
He, whatever gimmick character he was playing, he, dropped all of that and went, full serious the second she said that. So it was
unless he does the same routine every time to see if she can recognize repetitive
She
patterns.
might. That's... Oh, and you know what's so scary about this? The story's being told through the perspective of someone who forgets everything. So the ways that you could manipulate this story to the viewer is so stupid. There's so many, stupid things you could do writing-wise. And, there's, really creative things you could do, and this is Danganronpa, so I'm really scared.
Ooh.
That's all.
Let's see.
What they call the unreliable narrator, because you can't trust her memory. We already have established that we can't trust her memory, which means things in the story could be really wonky.
Continuity and consistency? Non-existent.
Oh, Lord. God. Anyways, just as I could feel my face turn pink, he released his hold on me and turned to face elsewhere. Then, still looking away, he whispered as if talking to himself. Is your condition really better, or is it getting worse? What does that mean? Are you trying to imply it's a bad thing if she starts remembering stuff? What does that mean?
What happened in her past?
I have so many questions.
Is this a result of trauma or something?
Well, yeah, but like, there's two ways to go about it. Like, you jump to like, oh, she has like a traumatic block. Where my mind went was, wait, I went back to the whole, did this guy do it to her? But now this time around, it was, did this guy do something to her mind to protect her?
That is possible
Like,
too.
you know, because again, all fits into the fact that like, it seems like, bullshit aside, I think this guy does in fact really care about this girl.
Or he at least finds her condition interesting.
At the very least, yeah.
He is an ultimate, so he's got a passion for this kind of thing.
And neurologist, so he's a proper, you know, scientist in whatever you want to call it. Anyways, huh? What do you mean? It's nothing. Matsuda shook his head and began speaking in a commanding tone. Right. Go lay on the bed. We have to begin today's treatment. It's gonna be wild when this turns into a fucking hentai in a few moments.
You dirty plonker.
Would you complain?
I guess not.
With my mind still
We'll see.
reverberating with the beats of my heart, I removed my backpack and set it aside. Then I lay down on the bed occupied by Matsuda until just a few minutes ago. As I let my body sink into the softness, my nose was filled with the scent of the sheets. Matsuda's scent. It tickled my nostrils as the remains of his warmth engulfed my body.
Well, her sense of smell is fine.
And I felt just as happy as if he were lying next to me, hugging me softly. Okay, that is creepy, girl. I laughed an instinctive giddy laugh. Is something funny? Matsuda grimaced and gave me a hard look. I realized that's the way dung beetles laugh, but even though you are one, it's just too gross. Can't you at least try to laugh normally? Oh, that sounded almost like a poo hoo hoo hoo.
Try going the good old Eggman laugh there.
That actually works. That actually works with that spelling. What's normal about that? If anything, that's even more gross. Annoyed, Matsuda rolled a cart noisily from the corner of the room. Sitting atop it were several complicated and important-looking machines. He pulled the cart up to the bedside and with a brief... Okay. I feel like there's words missing.
Are you
Let's
sure
begin.
this is a good, like...
Yes, this is the
source?
best version. Trust me, this is the
well,
best version.
it seems a little
We got
incomplete.
a little... Oh yeah, trust me. I mean, like, stuff like this is always messed up, but that's pretty funny. With a brief God knows what, let's begin. I assume the missing word here is Matsuda started operating one of the machines with a tense expression on his face. I found myself staring at him as he worked. Silky, soft hair with long, almost almond eyes peeking through it. Long, feminine eyelashes. A pointed jaw, thin lips, slender and pale fingers. This girl is wild.
Get your fingers out your skirt.
Stop looking at me, super ugly. It's creepy. And a sharp tongue. That sounds so sexual. What the hell?
All the traits a good, Tagami would have.
Except he's reading manga, which don't know if that's Tagami's thing, and he also is not very kempt. Like he is shirtless.
Well, I mean the trait of the Tagami family.
That's right. That's my Matsuda. I rolled to my side and began to write something in my notebook. You don't have to write everything down, dung beetle. But if I don't write it down, I'd forget it all. Matsuda let out an exaggerated sigh. Honestly, your brain's like a bottomless pit. A bottomless pit. It wasn't another one of his cruel jokes. It was true. I forget everything I see and hear after a very short time, no matter how awful it may be. I don't know the reason. If I ever knew, I'd forgotten it.
I don't know. I'd compare that a little more to a black hole than a bottomless pit.
Same. I mean, a black hole's just even more extreme, but same vein. But whatever the reason may be, my forgetfulness is not normal. Of that, I'm certain. That's why, Hope's Peak, the researching. Yeah, that makes sense. But it's not like I'm forgetting things because I want to. There's a sickness in my brain, right? I can't help it, so be nice to me. No, I don't think we can just call it a sickness and be done with it. Matsuda shook his head slightly. The human memory is a very complicated thing, and there's a lot we don't know about it. It's almost like a black box. Your situation isn't just a simple sickness that can be dealt with like any other. As he explained, he stuck suction pads all over my head and face, the cords from which were attached to the machines on the trolley. There's a part of the human brain that we call episodic memory. It stores your personal experiences, what you see and hear. The area of the brain responsible for it is called the hippocampus. If something goes wrong there, the brain experiences difficulties in creating and storing new episodes. There's a famous old example about a patient who had the hippocampus removed in surgery and lost all ability to form new memories. Since then, there's been a lot of research about the exact role of the hippocampus in relation to memory. That said, even if your hippocampus is malfunctioning, you'd still retain your procedural memory, memory of how to do tasks like riding a bicycle or using tools. You won't remember the episodes related to those tasks, though. For example, you might remember how to ride a bicycle, but you won't remember how you learned to ride them. That's it, in a nutshell.
That's pretty cool, and she forgot all of that.
I see, so that's why even though I'm super forgetful, I still know how to read and write in my notebook. That makes sense. I held the notebook in question with both of my hands and nodded thoughtfully. Ryoko Otanashi's memory notebook. That notebook was memory itself for me. The one thing I knew I could trust above all else. So in other words, anyone that gets her notebook could write anything in it and she would just assume it's the absolute truth.
That's kind of, scary to think about, but yes,
Not
essentially.
Good. Yeah, because she basically, this seems like, besides Matsuda, the only other thing she cares about is Ryoko Tanashi's memory notebook.
Oh dear, this could only end in
this setup
tragedy.
is awful. Everything about this is so not good. The one thing I knew I could trust above all else, as long as I had it, I could more or less live a regular life like regular people. That said, it seemed that this school was a little behind in accommodating students like me, and I still faced many difficulties on that front. For example, during exams, I couldn't review my notes, which is something that caused my grades to plummet and got me suspended from... Oh, what? I've been suspended from the school? Yeah, she's reading it and finding out because she forgot. That's so weird.
Oh, fuck, I can't even be here.
I yelled, looking up from the notebook. Just because my grades are bad? That's not fair. You should be glad they haven't kicked you out altogether. I had to negotiate with the school to keep that from happening. Interesting. Huh? You stood up for me? My heart skipped a beat. I'm so happy. You really are fond of me, aren't you? Matsuda scoffed. I couldn't risk losing precious research.
That is fair.
Even
it's a case he hasn't cracked yet, so he can't get rid of his test subject.
Even so, Matsuda took the time to do something so kind for me. Your case seems to involve a failure in the retrieval of long-term memory. It's possible something went wrong with the synapses connecting the neurons somewhere in your brain. But I need more time to investigate the problem more thoroughly before I can really say for sure. I didn't understand most of what you said, but at least I haven't been expelled. If I get expelled now, where would I even go? I don't have anywhere outside of the school. I've forgotten everything else. I don't even remember my family or any old friends I may or may not have. And if I get expelled, I'll also end up away from you, Matsuda. Interesting. Leaning back into the hole, she has nothing but Matsuda. It's like a very, it's one of those weird things where it's like I said, I made the yandere comments, but it's almost like, it's honestly a rare case where, the yandere tendencies actually are kind of justifiable. Because,
In a way.
she, like, literally, like, she doesn't even have memories of others. Like, she's kind of...
Yeah, that's pretty
literally has nothing, right? Like, that's on another level of not having anything but him. Very interesting. Being separated from Matsuda was the thing I feared most. My body shivered a little just saying the words aloud. Don't worry about something so stupid. Matsuda turned to face me and spoke bluntly. You're a valuable research subject, and I don't plan to lose you. At least, not at the moment. But you might change your mind later. I'm happy, I suppose, but I have to remember not to be too much of a burden from now on.
Well, that's not happening.
Don't complain. Definitely not. Don't complain. You should be honored that you're participating in such important research. Matsuda chided me. Yeah.
I think she'd rather not be involved in this at all.
Also, we already talked about it a little earlier, but it's very sus that we have someone who's researching memory loss.
Yeah.
Given the plot of Danganronpa 1.
Such precise memory loss that affected the last 2 years, but literally nothing else about themselves, aside from Kyoko.
Yeah, it's interesting. It does make you wonder if either A, Junko used Matsuda's research, or B, Matsuda just straight up was the one that did whatever memory shit happened to us.
Yeah. And Kyoko's case played right into what he said about the hippocampus, how she didn't remember being the ultimate detective, but she still had those detective skills while she was investigating.
It definitely feels like one or the other. Either Junko took his research and used it to her own ends, or, again, Matsuda, if he is just outright like a despair at some point, he could have just did it. She could have just had him do it.
Precisely.
So, interesting. Both of those interesting, but definitely it doesn't feel like a coincidence that we're diving into memory loss so much given the plot of the first game.
For real. And they know we're thinking this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're trolling, too, so it might somehow not have nothing to do with it, too, because that's so Danganronpa as well. That's what I hate!
That'll be sus. If this is nothing involved, that'll be so sus.
Matsuda chided me. That's the thing, though. Like, they love making things obvious. And oftentimes the obvious thing is the thing. But then sometimes it's not. So they're always just trolling on so many levels. Matsuda chided me and then continued his explanation. In order to understand why memory loss occurs, we need to understand the core elements of our brain's memory storage apparatus on a molecular level. Once we understand that, it opens the door to a wide array of possibilities, like improving the quality and longevity of human memory, or developing medicine to prevent memory loss. In the future, we might even be able to treat memories like we do data on a hard drive, creating devices to back them up and destroy select parts of them freely.
Actually, and we know a particular computer that was able to do that.
I hate this too because it's so stupid. Because the thing that's so dumb about this is literally in DR1. Junko's like, I forget if it's Junko or Monokuma, the same thing, but it's like when they're kind of like questioning about like the memory loss, and they just literally gloss over it and like, it's not important. You don't need an explanation. What does it matter? You're not going to believe me anyways.
It's a fair point.
And then the next thing we jump into is diving hella deep into memory loss. And it's like, the series is such a troll.
Too much of a troll, honestly.
Really? Actually, there's already research going on for that abroad. By suppressing the enzyme kinase M-zeta, they were able to erase the long-term memory of lab rats. Interesting. I see. In fact, I didn't see at all. But for the time being, I had to be agreeable. Good girl, question mark? In any case, I'm just super happy that I could be of help to my beloved Matsuda. Your brain is empty, and so are the words it produces. You really are an empty girl. Damn.
Get fucked.
I didn't quite understand if he was serious or just making fun of me. But that's just how Matsuda is. He always insists I should take care of myself, even if I oppose him. He may be cold to me, and he may be blunt, but he doesn't treat me with fake sympathy. It's depressing when people do, so I'm grateful for his attitude. Fair enough, I could see that. I may be empty, but I'm still super happy. I kind of love this girl, to be honest.
She's definitely a character of all time.
Like, she just doesn't give a shit. And like, it's fun and endearing, but then you get the moments where you realize just how little of a shit she gives, which makes sense given her condition. Why would you? But then, like, she just does something hella creepy, and it's like, oh yeah, she really doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
I raised my voice, refusing to be discouraged, but Matsuda's reply was almost a whisper. Well, I can't deny you're helping me out here. One doesn't get his hands on such a rare case very often. Did you say rare? I like the sound of that. It makes me sound so special. I felt as though I was being praised. So what's rare about me? Tell me. Hey, tell me.
And she forgot.
Stop acting like a child, Matsuda spat as he sighed once again. I don't want to tell you. You just get annoyingly excited. What's so wrong with that? Tell me. My insistence finally paid off. You don't often see someone possessing such a remarkable brain-intensive talent as you do, affected by memory loss. That's why you're such a rare case. Interesting. We knew she was a student, so we knew she was an ultimate. That makes sense. But
in
she
some
has a
form or fashion.
This ultimate neurologist refers to it as such a remarkable brain-intensive talent.
I mean,
interesting to think that. I mean, that kind of implies that there's a connection between her talent and the fact that she has memory loss.
So some kind of neurological student as well.
Who knows? There's something interesting though about her. Talent, brain-intensive. Nothing came to my mind. It's fine if you don't remember it. It was really irritating when you used that talent of yours. To be honest, I'd prefer if you never tried to use it on me. You got that, dung beetle?
What the hell?
Well, that's interesting. Never
Ominous.
tried to use it on me. Brain-intensive talent. Interesting. I didn't quite get what he meant, and also they're just hiding the talent. They're not going to tell us for God knows how long.
Oh, of course not. You need to keep reading.
They've done this before with a character with amnesia, so why not do it again, right?
Yes.
But his dung beetle comment stung my heart a little bit, so I just decided to nod in agreement. At least I could understand that he was insulting me. God damn it. Well, I don't really care as long as I get to spend these intimate moments with you, Matsuda. I should be thankful that there's sickness in my brain. Jesus. I told you, it's not really a sickness. Matsuda stuck even more suction cups to my head, as if he were trying to hide my grinning face. Nevertheless,
Precisely.
It's admirable... Yeah. Nevertheless, it's admirable that you take this so easily. Your condition is no laughing matter. Shouldn't you be at least a little worried? Huh? What is there to be worried about? Well, you know, said Matsuda in amazement, you don't seem to be concerned at all about whether these symptoms are ever going to go away or whether you'll always be like this. His words surprised me. It wasn't like Matsuda at all asking a question like that in such a serious voice.
And how do you know that?
Yeah, how does she know? Like, it's the little
that
things,
seems
right?
so strangely inconsistent.
She has this, like...
She has this vision of him.
Yeah, and it's, like, all built around Matsuda. She has, like, this core, like, she never forgets... It seems to imply that she never forgets how much she loves him.
Yeah.
And it's like... Oh, it's so interesting. I'm not worried at all. I laughed, trying to lighten the mood, totally not coming off like a psychopath. I mean, the only me I can remember is the me that's lying here on this bed at this exact moment. I can't remember anything from before I lost my memories, so it's not like I have anything to compare it to. That's why I don't see my forgetfulness as a disadvantage. It's just a part of who I am.
That's very sad, but okay.
It's really interesting because it's one of those things where it's very hard to put yourself into those shoes. Like, it's something that's like you can't even really comprehend.
Yeah.
It's like your life begins and ends almost like immediately and then just restarts every time almost. It's like wild to think about. You don't see it as a disadvantage, but aren't you even worried about how this memory loss started or when it's going to end? Not at all. In fact, I'm much more worried that if I suddenly get cured, I wouldn't get to see you anymore, Matsuda. The room suddenly grew silent. After it continued for a while, Matsuda broke it with a quiet sigh. You should worry, he muttered, his voice suddenly dark. What if you'll always be like this? I looked up. The face peeking through his pitch black hair was stiff, lost in thought. It's like he's having a moment where he's admitting that he actually cares about me. Matsuda?
Never.
As soon as I called him, he straightened up and turned back to me as he got back into character. No, it's nothing. He shook his head as if trying to smooth things over in his mind. Then he returned to the machine, waving his hand as though it were nothing worth fussing over. It's true that nothing good could come out of being too pessimistic over your symptoms. That's one case where your natural cheerfulness is actually helpful. Damn. Compliment? Question mark?
However you want to interpret it.
She will definitely interpret it as a compliment. Yep, my thinking's very flexible after all. Your head is flexible, that's for sure. You can't even remember your friends or family before you lost your memory, and yet you aren't even slightly disconcerted. Like I said, I don't mind forgetting those things as long as I'm with you. It's just like I never had them at all. Since I've forgotten about anyone else, they really have nothing to do with me anymore.
Jesus Christ.
She keeps saying that. This has nothing to do with me. She kept talking about that when she was, like, flashing guys with her skirt and, like, just not giving a shit as she went to Matsuda. It's just, it has nothing to do with me. Because if I can't remember it, it's not my problem.
Honestly.
It's so interesting, right? Though, like, because, like, I don't think I've ever seen a character that I can compare to this. Like, this is a really interesting concept for a character. Like, there obviously have been characters with amnesia, but nothing like this.
Literally in this franchise.
Yeah, literally this franchise, but obviously those characters included. There's nothing that really I feel like I've seen before that really compares to what they're doing with Ryoko.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure either.
It's really interesting. But yeah, and certainly makes for an interesting character perspective. Those words again. Matsuda closed his eyes for what felt like an awfully long time. You keep saying things have nothing to do with you. You're going to end up with nothing left inside. Are you speaking from experience, or are you just trying to be ominous? Oh, I'll be fine. I always have you, Matsuda, I answered cheerfully. You're the only person I can remember, so as long as you're here, I'll never be alone. You probably link me with the process of coming here to receive this treatment in your procedural memory. That's why you can remember me. No, that's not it at all. Yeah, I know. You're madly in love with me because I'm the hottest man you've ever seen, even though you always
Alright,
forget
that's
what I
enough
look
jerking
like,
dick.
said Matsuda, trying to calm me down before I became too flustered. He continued attaching suction cups to my face, stopping from time to time to scratch his chest, which I could catch a glimpse of through a gap in his dirty white shirt. What the why is that a lie? Jesus Christ, this girl's horny.
Because she's thirsty.
She really is. Did he really know what I meant? He probably just said that to shut me up. I don't think he even believed me when I said I remembered him. But it's true. I don't remember him in the usual sense of the word. Remember, that is. But I didn't lie when I said I do. I remembered Matsuda. I forget him, and yet I remember. I'm not talking about our conversations or what we did together. For those kind of memories, I have to rely on my notebook. No, what I remember is something much more special and important. It's not memories, but feelings. Not using my head, but using my heart. What I remember about Matsuda is pure emotion. Every time I see him, I feel the beat of my heart before my head even realizes what's going on. That beat tells me one very important thing. For me, his very existence is precious, one of a kind, irreplaceable. Very interesting. That's why, no matter how forgetful I become, I will never forget him. There's a connection deeper than memories between the two of us. For me, Matsuda is special. He's extraordinary. He's a miracle and... Shut up already, will you? What? I came back to my senses confused. You heard me? I was saying all that out loud, but I didn't have quotes. I didn't have quotation marks.
You didn't remember you were speaking out loud. That's why.
I know. That is literally the story telling you that she's an unreliable narrator. I mean, it's kind of already obvious, but that's like a tiny example.
Oh, that's so fucked.
That's really clever, though, because they're setting things up. That's like giving you an example of like, hey, she thinks she's talking in her head. She's not. And the world around her is revealing the truth.
What the actual hell is this girl?
They're cooking. That's all I know.
This is some hardcore cook.
Yeah. I almost leapt out of the bed, but Matsuda pinned my head back down hot. If you move too much, you're going to disconnect the cords. What a waste of human life. Jesus!
Nice.
He said cruelly, as if I'd been trying to disconnect his cords on purpose. But I never said a word. Were you talking about how loud my heartbeat is? I can't help that. If it stopped beating, I'd die. I wasn't talking about you. I was referring to the noise outside.
Oh.
Huh? Outside? Matsuda turned his chin and pointed to the window. As I listened intently, I could hear an unusual array of noises coming from outside. Jeers, roars, howling voices, repulsed, accusatory voices, reactionary voices full of anger. All of them combined to make a sound, almost as though the earth was trembling. It was an assembly of harsh, hate-filled voices. What is that?
Just in case you forgot what else was going on in this story by now.
Mm-hmm. It's the parade. They're getting louder every day now. A parade? You don't mean that parade, do you? Liar, you don't remember it at all. Matsuda flicked my forehead and continued explaining with a grim expression. It's essentially a demonstration, but the teaching staff, or maybe I should say the old geezers in the steering committee, didn't like the sound of that, so they decided to give it a ridiculous name like a parade. Very Danganronpa of them. But isn't a parade the exact opposite of a demonstration? That's exactly why they chose it. But why a demonstration at all? It's the students from the reserve course.
Oh?
That's something we have not heard of before yet.
No.
Reserve course? I've never heard of it before. Or have I? You don't remember, of course. Well, your head is enormous, so I guess it can't be helped. Wait, calling a girl enormous is sexual harassment. If this were the Edo area, you would be beheaded by no... Ooh! My head, which was on its way up from the bed, was pushed back down. Rose is like, shut up.
Please,
Hope
shut
Speak
up.
Academy isn't a traditional learning facility like other schools. They provide education for the talented, but at the same time, they research that talent. The teaching staff aren't just simple educators. They're also scientists who research human talent. But scientists are a nasty breed. The more they research, the deeper they want to dig. Therefore, there's something they never have enough of. Do you know what that is? It's probably funding.
That is fair.
Yep. Science is expensive.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right. My chance to find the answer on my own was gone, so that's all I could say. Up until recently, Hope's Peak Academy was a smaller scale facility that could survive on a government subsidiary and donations from alumni. But the steering committee wasn't satisfied with the state of research, which was slowed by a lack of resources. So they implemented the reserve course system in order to bring in more money. Interesting. We're learning Hope's Peak backstory now. I nodded, humming in agreement to show Matsuda that I was listening. The gist of it is that us Ultimates are affiliated with the main school, but now there's a separate educational facility as well called the Reserve Course. That part of the school is located on the west district of the campus, while the main school remains here in the east district, so we don't actually intermingle much. I heard there's not much that's the same over there. They don't scout their students, instead relying on a standard entrance exam to choose among applicants. Their teaching staff is chosen the same way. Our teachers are the scientists and researchers who work and live at the school, while they have regular teachers coming from outside. So then, it's just a regular high school, isn't it? Exactly. Nevertheless, there was a flood of applications. A brand name is a powerful thing.
Interesting.
Matsuda almost spat the words out. People didn't care that it was just a reserve course. The prestigious Hope's Peak Academy had finally opened its doors to the public. People are sheep. They're drawn to a name. And the school took advantage of that to get more money from people who would pay an arm and a leg just to get in. Thanks to that, the school went through a rapid growth spurt. We suddenly have research buildings that would make any university jealous. No one was prepared for that. In just a year or two, Hope's Peak Academy became a school of an entirely different scale. The power of the steering committee also grew accordingly. Isn't that kind of a ripoff? So, this is actually kind of a big reveal because this is something that we knew absolutely nothing about. So, Hope's Peak Academy had essentially, they needed more money. Mm-hmm. And so the school had incredible prestige, but it was still much smaller and more intimate. And they opened up the school to regular people, essentially, as long as you had the money. So basically, they basically were like, hey, if you spend a fuck ton of money, you can get your son or daughter into Hope's Peak. And
but
in
just
reality,
the tiny
they're just
bit
giving
of it.
them, yeah, it's just a regular high school. Like,
We're just
there's
giving you a
basically
basic education.
Yeah, it's basically two separate schools, but what matters is the reputation. Because you know how they say, you graduate from Hope's Peak, you're set for life. Well, these people could still claim that they graduated from Hope's Peak.
Yeah.
So they sold that, and obviously people, and especially people with money, invested a ton into like getting their son or their daughter, their kids into Hope's Peak. And in the process, that gave the school ass loads of money so that they basically spent all of that on the east side into researching talent. And that's how Hope's Peak became.
That's a pretty fucked system, but it makes perfect sense. The ultimate scam.
So this kind of explains where Hope's Peak got all its money from. Because it still existed before, and it was still this elite school, but it was, on a much smaller scale. And this is what ramped them up into the monstrosity that they are as we know them. So but that's interesting, because that is a detail that, like, there was never a mention. Reserve course, that nothing like that ever came up in DR1. It makes sense. It wasn't relevant, but it's interesting nonetheless. Anyways. Boop. It seems that way, but that's just the kind of world we live in. Matsuda's mouth twisted into a bitter smile. Right now, Hope's Peak Academy is set up like an old-fashioned caste system. The multitude of students in the reserve course exist only to support the few ultimates in the main one. Apparently, they have some kind of system in place for exceptional students from the reserve course to transfer to the main school, but I've never heard of anyone actually succeeding. Our teachers probably don't think any of them deserve it. Huh? That's not how educators should behave. You're right, but it's exactly how scientists do. They don't care about anything but their research subject. I'm just the same, in fact. It's just that their subject is human talent. But it's so unfair. I pumped my cheeks in annoyance. Of course it is. If it wasn't, there wouldn't be any need for a demonstration, would there? Okay, so now we know that the reserve course are the students that are protesting.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So I'm gonna
like how long did you think this
the
could have gone on before they
like
realized
the
that
general
wait,
system makes sense. Like yeah, that makes sense. But the way that they were talking in the Kirigiri chapter, my thought is an ultimate murdered a bunch of reserve corps students.
possibly, yeah,
That could
and that very well
piece
could
this
be
together.
the one we saw at the beginning.
Yeah, it could be like a Junko Mukuro type beat that, and this could be, like I said, if you piece it back to Ultimate Despair, this could be a step in a larger plan, right? Like this could be a piece to the puzzle.
Possibly, yeah.
You know, a smaller incident to set up a larger incident to presumably keep ramping up over and over until it's eventually we got the whole world, I guess. We'll see. Anyways. Yeah, it's so unfair. No need for demonstration, would there? But still, Matsuda suddenly cut himself off and his tone of voice changed to a cautious one. I don't think they could have set all this up on their own. This has to be the result of someone else's scheme. That's how it seems to me.
Junko Enoshima.
Junko Enoshima. It's gotta be.
Junko.
If only they chant that name. Matsuda narrowed his eyes and looked outside the window. His look was so grim that I hesitated to speak. Hey, Ugly. After a short while, he turned back to me as if remembering something. Write this conversation down properly in your notebook. Don't brush it off as having nothing to do with you. Those reserve corps students don't think much of us. I don't think they're going to attack you or anything, but it's better to be cautious.
Ooh, so
Okay,
they
I
actually start
understand.
attacking the Ultimates back.
So he's worried that it's a possibility at the very least. Doesn't expect it, but you never know. As I replied, I noticed the suction cups stuck to my head and my face were making it difficult to move my mouth. I need you to stay still for a while. You can sleep if you want.
But she's going
Matsuda
to
stood
forget to
and
write that down.
Stepped away from my line of sight. But I'm not sleepy at all, I replied in an insecure voice. From the other side of the room, I heard Matsuda's voice answer me. I can give you sleeping pills. 12 should probably be enough. What?
That'll
Isn't
be
that
enough.
A lethal yeah, what? Isn't that a lethal dose? Are you sure it's all right?
It'll be enough.
As my unease grew even deeper, Matsuda appeared in front of me again. He was now wearing a school jacket on top of his dirty shirt. Something happens to my machines while I'm gone, you're dead. Are you going somewhere? I have a little business to take care of. That's suspicious as fuck.
Yeah.
Anyway, if something happens to my machines, you're dead.
I'm just going to go meet a true woman with blonde hair.
I'm gonna meet my other love.
Other? My only.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe. Well, that
True.
could be the thing, right? Like, again, so if that is what's going on, and like Matsuda is a despair, like right now, because like I've been thinking about the idea of like, you know, because he could obviously fall into despair over the course of the story, but he could also just be one right now. And if he is, I wouldn't be surprised if the Ryoko thing is that she's a despair and she doesn't even remember she is.
It could be that, or it could be the, you know, he's trying to figure out.
Or
he's trying to
she's
do
gonna-
this to figure out, like, you know, the memory thing and how to specifically take away certain parts of people's memories.
Yeah,
and
obviously.
she's the
yeah,
key to
she has,
understanding that.
She obviously, but like it's interesting because there's two layers to it. There's the fact that she represents potentially the way to alter people's memories. And there's the fact that they brought up that she has a very, he referred to it as a remarkable brain intensive talent. So there's like two things
there's also
there
the
that are
case
really
of
interesting.
trying to get that talent back.
So yeah, so she's presumably some kind of genius that, but obviously doesn't remember in the slightest that she is. And so much so that he even made a comment that I'd prefer if you don't use that talent on me, whatever that means.
Yeah.
And then, but then there's obviously the memory thing, and you can't help but think like, oh, memory loss, DR1. Like they had to do it somehow. So there's multiple things at play here. It's interesting. They're all things that you can kind of find ways to link to. Makes sense, I guess. He was serious enough to repeat the warning twice of killing her if something happened to his machines.
Just making sure it sticks.
What is this next line? I wouldn't mind being killed if it's you who kills me. Bro. What the fuck? Dude, we're at the beginning of the story. Why is she saying lines like this?
What the fuck?
What the fuck? Like I know it's like half joke. The joke is gone. She's a forgetful yandere. That is just, it's over now.
She has always been the ultimate yandere.
Can't wait for that to actually somehow be your title. It would be troublesome for me. I hate gore.
Interesting.
I didn't think that was such a good quality for someone who studies the human brain, but I kept that to myself. Oh, he hates gore. Well, if he's a despair, then he probably gets a lot of gore and does it on purpose because he hates it.
For sure.
Oh, I hate this. I hate this series. In that case, if I stay here and wait like a good girl, let's watch a movie together later. Okay. A movie? Yeah, like that one. I flipped through the pages of my notebook searching for memories about movies. Here's one. It's about two robbers, Harry and Marv, sneaking into the McAllister household. God damn it. Are you talking about Home Alone? It seems you... Yeah. They're not even gonna... They're not... See, because... I think because it's a light novel, they don't even...
Give a shit.
They're not even Yeah. Are you talking about Home Alone? It seems you've forgotten, but you bugged me to see it with you before, and we did. Really? In that case... I continued flipping through the notebook, but couldn't find mention of any other movies. It seems I was particularly interested in that one. It was his fault for letting me watch it. Well, like, that's the thing, right? Like, she wouldn't have any memories. So the only thing she could find is things she wrote down, which would be a movie she actually saw.
Fuck.
Well, I'm sure it's a masterpiece, so it'd still be interesting even if you watch it again. It's certainly not a bad movie, but it's not the kind of movie I'd want to watch again and again. So, what kind of movie do you... Please don't ask me questions fit for the diary of a middle school girl. I felt his distasteful stare looming over me, but I refused to give up. Come on, let's do it. I got a feeling that it'll be just as interesting to watch once more. I read a little more in my notebook. According to this, I thought that the little boy who played the main character, Macaulay Culkin, is super cute. There's a cute boy in this movie. Isn't that exciting?
Well,
I don't even know what to say. What is wrong with her? And why exactly do you think that would excite me? That's also a fair question.
Exactly.
Also, it's... she's a yandere, but she did mention his, what was it, feminine eyelashes?
Yes, eyelashes.
What exactly do you think... Why exactly do you think that would excite me? Also, it's Macaulay Culkin. Wacol is a lingerie brand. It says here that I thought he was so cute I wanted to adopt him.
What the fuck?
You only say... Demon. You only say that because you don't know how he looks today. He underwent quite the transformation.
Jesus, these disses. Holy
now we're taking
fuck.
shots at real people.
Someone had it out for him.
Damn. A transformation, huh? Matsuda narrowed his almond eyes even more than usual and swept his bangs away from his forehead. Huh. That was kind of a weird one. She just said that. Huh. Just be a good girl and go to sleep. It seemed he was tired of me trying to postpone his departure. Wait, don't go.
This is
Suddenly
a really long
panicking,
chapter.
I tried. Yeah, you know how the first chapters were so short, and then this one's like infinitely longer.
We've passed like 7% of the whole work from this chapter alone.
Yeah, we've hit the 10% mark now. Yeah, so like the chapters have no consistency in length.
Holy crap.
Like literally no consistency. It's just wherever. It's usually a lot of the chapters, like there's like not always, but a lot of them, it's either like I said, either like a shift in perspective or it's whatever. But like obviously the first two had like really short scenes with the character. First with Junko, then with Jin, and now we're just having this long scene with Ryoko. So
Yeah.
Wait, don't go. Suddenly panicking, I tried to stop him again. I don't want you to go. I'll be lonely. Don't leave me here alone. We haven't seen each other in a long time, have we? A long time? Matsuda stopped in his tracks. Why do you think we haven't seen each other in a long time? I'm asking why you think we haven't seen each other in a long time. Matsuda faced away from me as he spoke. His voice was tinted in pain. With pain, and made me feel anxious. God, there's so much that this dude is not telling us.
And probably we will not learn for a long time.
Yeah, I know. It's like, well, because the worst part is you know that Ryoko knows all the answers and she doesn't remember any of them.
Not one.
I hate it. Because I can feel my heart pounding. So if you were to see me every day, your heart wouldn't beat as fast? No, that's not it. We saw each other just yesterday, you know. We did? Just as I thought, your memory isn't getting better. Matsuda's back slumped forward as if he were dejected. I guess you were lying when you said I'm the only one you can remember. Wait, I'll remember in a second. In haste, I flipped through the pages of my notebook. I went through them all, from front to back. But I couldn't find any mention of me and Matsuda meeting the day before. It was a complete failure. When I looked up from the notebook, Matsuda was already gone.
Oof.
Rip. I'd been had, and there was nothing more I could do about it. I guess there really is nothing I could do now but sleep. Not that that's such a bad thing. At the very least, when I'm asleep, I can lose myself inside my dreams. I can escape this lonely world that doesn't have Matsuda in it. I could probably even meet Matsuda in my dreams, Jesus Christ.
She's not wrong about that, but, yeah.
This girl's wild. Yeah. With that thought deep in my heart, I rolled onto my side, careful not to disturb the cords all over my head, and sniffed the pillow that still had traces of Matsuda's scent.
Kinky.
She just keeps going. I nuzzled into it as though I were a puppy, humming happily. Then I closed my eyes. As my vision blacked out, my other senses sharpened. Before long, the only thing remaining in my world was Matsuda's scent. No, that wasn't the only thing. I could also hear voices interfering with my and Matsuda's private world. An assembly of emotional, unsettling voices filled with hate. Anxiety washed over my entire body just by listening to them, so I blocked my ears in panic. It has nothing to do with me, after all. Somehow it's going to have everything to do with you. That's the irony, you silly girl.
You're a main character.
God. Even so, I couldn't sleep. I felt like my body forgot how to. I want to fall asleep. I want to sleep and go to a world where Matsuda is. I want to see him again. Matsuda, 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 Matsuda. And then, as I dreamed about dreaming about Matsuda...
Oh, wow, we're going all kind of multi-layers.
I hate this series. I slowly fell into a blissful sleep. By far the longest chapter so far.
Oh, that's not even close. Holy fucking hell.
The first two were so short, and then the third one. Yeah, that's one of the long ones, chapter 3. I do remember that one being long.
Jesus Christ.
So yeah, we got quite the introduction for both Yasuke Matsuda and Ryoko Otonashi, our two, at least, if not main characters, at very least the cover stars of Danganronpa 0.
Yeah, it's very interesting. You know, there's many different ways you could go about them. Obviously, they're expecting you to make assumptions and connections to the stuff that went on in Trigger Happy Havoc here with the memory loss shit.
Yep.
And we got some proper lore about, I guess, Hope's Peak, how it's actually a scam school.
That there's actually a bunch of normal students that go to Hope's Peak, like just normal people, and they basically just have a normal education, and that's basically what the west side of the school is, and then the east side is basically the Hope's Peak as we've known it up to this point.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
That is interesting, yeah.
It certainly kind of again, it's one of those things where it's like, that makes sense. Like, it's one of those things that you kind of don't expect to be brought up. Like, the logistics of how this school works from a monetary standpoint. But when they explain it, it's like, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It's like an explanation you just don't expect to ever get.
So, yeah, I'm not in... I mean, obviously these are our main stars, but I'm really curious how they're gonna co-join with our already known characters, right? Because before this, it was everyone we'd known about in Trick Happy Havoc, you know. Jin seems to be like he's gonna be a reoccurring and main character in this. Obviously, Junko was the first word ever shown.
We have this tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy in the background. Whatever happened, happened. And in the aftermath of this, you have these students that are protesting, these reserve corps students, and that's kind of happening in the background, literally in the case of Ryoko, because it has nothing to do with her, as she keeps saying. But you have, and then Matsuda, who is going to be probably more of an active mover in the plot, because he clearly has a lot going on. Like, he's obviously caring for Ryoko, but he's also got other things going on that we don't know about yet. Because we know he's meeting someone. We have Jin, who obviously, as the headmaster, is trying to keep the school together. And then we have Junko, who seems to quite literally be an instigator in the background, which, to be fair, was essentially her role in Danganronpa 1. The only difference is the veil is off. Like, we know that Junko is the instigator in the background, so the story is not like trying to hide that fact.
Yeah, like I said, pretty curious how she integrates herself in this otherwise seemingly unknown story at the moment. Because we have two new ultimates, you know, the ultimate neuroscientist and the ultimate
neurologist.
We have another mystery ultimate, because this series loves to give us
hell.
characters that are ultimates and not telling us anything really about them at the start.
I mean, we already got like a hint, but not enough to really get any real, I feel like, reasonable guess.
Nah. Not really.
Yeah, so that's...
Yeah, not really sure what to make of that then.
Yeah. So
I mean, you're already kind of way into your thing about how, you know, this uproar is coming because an ultimate, like, possibly killed someone.
Something
and again,
bad happens.
Possibly
like I said,
probably something to do with Junko either way. Even if it's not directly tied to what she was doing at the start.
And it might not even be an ultimate killing a reserve course like group or class or whatever, but regardless, something really bad happened, and it's coinciding with the reserve course, you know, having enough with the way they've been treated. and these factors could be directly related. They could be a little more indirectly related. It could be because even Matsuda mentioned that, and you could tell that Matsuda was kind of, this is, I think, he hasn't really given off any signs that he might be a bad person. The one thing that came off a little sus, he's a very realist based on what we've seen, but he did kind of speak. He had disdain for the way that Hope's Peak, basically is scamming people. But he did kind of speak almost like he kind of saw himself as above the Reserve Corps students.
Yeah.
And that was a little, iffy. That's a little, I'm an ultimate kind of...
I mean, it could just be a thing where it's like, because he's higher, he has a higher responsibility to keep his word on things. But it's also kind of... It's like... He can see them as inferior, but he doesn't like how they've been lied to about, their attempts at becoming ultimates, acquiring talents.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, but he also mentioned that partially because it seems like he was kind of dissing them, but also because he's really smart and he's identified the fact that this feels too well put together. Like, he immediately identified that he believes that someone else was behind this organization of students, which the most obvious assumption would be to assume Junko from our perspective, because again, instigator in the background, presumably cooking in multiple pots. Like, she's probably got a lot going on that she's cooking simultaneously to eventually lead to what presumably does happen at some point, which is everything going to shit. So she either was directly involved or maybe indirectly involved in whatever incident happened, and then on top of that, she's probably, further instigating. So she's cooking a bunch of stuff, most likely, in the background.
Yeah.
So there's the brewings of something happening here. But it's interesting that you do get dropped in and something horrible has already happened. We don't know the specifics of, but things have already been set in motion where we're starting here.
That's just kind of the thing now, People have played the first one. They're aware of the kind of nature of Danganronpa. We don't have to hide its nature now, just the mysteries of why things happen.
Yeah, you understand generally speaking, what you're getting into. But yeah, it's good stuff. So, yes, we've reached your, I guess, first real decision of, is this the end of the video or not?
Yeah, I think that's a good start. We're about at 2.5 hours now.
Yeah, that's
probably a decent length.
We're at. So yeah, we got through. This was basically the earliest
3
we were
chapters
stop because the first
this
two
is
chapters.
Chapter 4.
Because the first 2 chapters were obviously way too short, and then of course the third chapter just goes on forever. Oh, the funny thing is that you actually jumped in a little less in chapter 3, comparatively. But yeah, obviously there was so much.
That's
in
the
that.
thing.
So,
there was so much there to take in.
It's not really to focus about chapters. I think the better thing to focus on is we are 10% through.
Yeah, percentile points are more important here.
That's probably, so we've basically read 1/10 of the story so far. So we'll see how that goes in terms of getting through it.
But yeah, I think that's pretty good.
Yep.
Obviously, guys and gals, there's a lot to cover in this one. A lot of mystery, a lot of familiarity as well. And hope you guys... It's an
interesting mix of new and old.
Hope you guys that are watching this are looking forward to more. And yeah, without further ado, this is me and Shark bidding you adieu. And we'll see you guys...
my outro, that's crazy.
Yes, we'll see you guys next time for part 2. I was going to say chapter, but no, we're on chapter 4. See you guys next...
Chapter 4 and whatever other chapters.
On the next part
Danganronpa
of
0.
Danganronpa 0.